Hello everyone, Zeno here. Here to bring in part 10 of What If TMNT Were Teleport in Avatar. Link down description of the fanfiction of this what if. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 20, The Runaway. Leo stood on a rocky field with his katanas at the draw. Rotating to his left was Katara in front of a river, which she used to bend water around her arms. On her left was Don, who spun his bow staff around him before taking a combat stance. Next to him was Mikey, who took out his nunchucks and spun them at the ready. Right across from Katara was Toph, who took an earthbending stance. Further on her left was Raph, who crossed his arms and pointed his sei outward. All six of them glared at the center of the circle they had formed around one individual. Okay, Aang said somewhat enthusiastically as he put a blindfold on. I'm ready for some training. Don't get cocky, kid, Raph cracked with a smirk. Aang took a few steps, and as he did, he began to listen to the earth via the seismic sense Toph had been teaching him. Toph shot multiple earth pillars out like pistons, which Aang was able to avoid quickly. As he swerved around one, he limboed under a horizontal slice from Leo. Leo stumbled before charging forward, but Aang inhaled and sent an air gust forward to blow Leo back. Raph thought he had the drop on them as he jumped from pillar to pillar and leapt at him sei forward, but Aang created an earth wall with the swipe of his leg, but Raph jumped over and landed in front of Aang. You got good defense, lightweight, Raph complimented as he thrusted his sei forward and Aang jumped over with airbending. But where's your offense? Aang responded as he sent a vertical airwave right to Raph and sent him into the river. He got up and spat some water out. Not bad. Katara whipped two water streams right at Aang just as Don landed on the other side of him and thrusted his staff forward. Aang arced the water above him and right at Don while sending another air wave at Katara. Mikey landed in front of Aang and flashed his nunchucks before swinging. Aang listened to the sound of the nunchucks spinning as Mikey swung them, and right at the moment he was able to catch them both in his hands, before Aang kicked up a boulder and shot it at Mikey, who screamed as he jumped over it and it flew straight at Toph, which she caught. Good job, Twinkle Toes. Toph congratulated. Visualize, then attack. She sent the rock right back at Aang, who responded by sinking himself in the ground and the rock went straight to Katara. It never made contact, however, as Leo quickly jumped in front and sliced it with his swords, causing several pieces to fly past Katara. She sighed in relief. Thanks, Leo. She then scowled at Toph. Maybe you should take your own advice, Toph. Aang moved himself back up as Leo sighed, knowing where this might go. What's the matter? Can't handle some dirt, Madam Fussy Britches? Toph teased. Oh boy. Don sighed as he got up while Leo face-palmed and Katara's eye twitched. She brought up a large wave over from the river behind her and arched it over herself, Leo, Aang, and the recovering Don and Mikey, and splashed it all over Toph. Oh sorry, did I splash you, mud slug? Katara called out. Uh-oh. Mikey slightly dreaded. Here we go. Leo relented. Toph clenched her fists as she created an earth wave, while Katara mirrored the action with an ice ramp and they both slammed into each other. Aang didn't notice anything happening. Are we taking a break? He asked with his blindfold still on. You could say that, Raph said as he walked up with his brothers, having a smirk and crossed arms. It seemed like no one really noticed Sokka peeking up from a small ridge with a semi-evil grin. He then hollered as he ran forward. Sneak attack. All the turtles lowered their eyelids while Aang, not even turning around, thrusted his hand upward, causing a large rock formation to come out and Sokka ran into it face fist. Raph and Mikey both chuckled at that. Now that was awesome, Raph stated. Which part? Mikey asked in a chuckle. The blindfold uppercut, or Sokka getting hurt? Both, Raph replied. Aang sunk the rock back down as Don walked up to Sokka, who was flat on his back with swirls in his eyes. Don lightly chuckled. Sokka, the point of a sneak attack is to be quiet. Not yell before you even get close to your target. He offered Sokka a hand, which he took once he shook the cobwebs from his head. Noted, Sokka replied. The group saw some mud splashed as Aang took off his blindfold and they all looked to see Katara and Toph resting each other in mud. Should we do something about them? Mikey asked Raph. Raph chuckled in response. No. Hungry for a mud pie? Toph challenged as she kicked mud right into Katara's face, causing her to back up. She whipped the mud from her face with a scowl. I'll give you a mud pie. Katara threw a ball of mud right at Toph, causing her to fall over. Toph shot back up and used a mud pillar to send Katara falling back to some rocks. Leo sighed as he walked right into the mud and straight for the two girls as they charged. Before they made contact, Leo grabbed Toph and Katara by the backs of their shirts and pulled them up. "Okay, that's enough," Leo lightly scolded. "We're supposed to be training Aang, kids." The key word being, training, not killing each other. "So cool it." Leo dropped them both as Toph landed on her feet, but Katara slid and landed on her bum. She got up and started to act more ladylike. "You're Leo, and I believe that may be enough training today." She then walked away. "While Katara cleans up, let's go have some fun," Toph stated as she bent all the mud off her body. "Yeah." Aang, Sokka, and Mikey all cheered. "You bros coming?" Raph asked Don and Leo. "Nah, I got some designs to work." Don replied. "Yeah, you guys go ahead. And remember, you guys gotta have disguises." Leo pointed out. "We got it the first 1,000 times, Leo." "Geez." Raph rolled his eyes before the four began to head out. Don meanwhile walked to where Appa was resting and went to his back to work on the blueprints he had been making, while Leo walked towards a stream of water where Katara was cleaning herself off. "That could have gone better," Leo said. "Hey, she started it," Katara defended. "You were the one who splashed water on her, just because she teased you," Leo replied. "Well, what was I supposed to do?" Katara questioned. Maybe ignore her," Leo stated. "She keeps making fun of you, because you react to it. That's what makes it so easy. If you ignore her, if you don't react, she'll stop." "Easy for you to say." Katara grunted as she cleaned out her hair. "Really?" Leo asked with a cocked eyebrow. "You do realize I'm brothers with Raph, right?" Katara sighed. "Yeah." She seemed to calm down. "Sorry." "Forget it," Leo told her. "Just try not to react so much, trust me, I speak from experience." Meanwhile, Aang, Toph, Raph, Sokka, and Mikey all walked through a Fire Nation industrial town in their disguises, the two turtles still wearing their hooded robes to avoid getting anyone's attention. Mikey noticed a few red birds flying above him and towards a small tower. "Hey, red eagles. Those are hawks, I think," Raph replied. "This world's got some weird animals. They're messenger hawks," Sokka told them, "and I've been thinking about getting one for myself. That way, I wouldn't have to talk to anyone. I could just send them messages. I gotta say, I like the idea of not talking to you." Toph joked while Raph chuckled and the two fist bumped. "Ooh, burn." Mikey rubbed in, earning a scowl from Sokka. Aang pulled out a small coin. "So guys, what are we gonna get with our last silver piece?" "Wait, we only have one left," Mikey questioned. "How the shell did that happen?" "Don't worry, Mikey, we can get more money," Toph pointed out, causing most of the group to look in confusion. "Right there." As she pointed downward, Raph looked at the scene. Gambling. This should be good." The group made their way to the scene where they saw a number of people gathered around a small table with a dealer who had 3 shells on the table. A man put some money on the table, while the dealer pulled up all 3 shelves and revealed a small pebble in the middle. He put the shells back down, with the pebble under the middle one, and began to shuffle. "This is where you seeing people are at a disadvantage," Toph explained to her friends. "Everyone guesses wrong, moves the rock at the last minute." Raph saw her point as he caught sight of the dealer discreetly flipping the rock into one of his sleeves. "But I can feel it with my earthbending." "I also saw it, too," Raph pointed out. "You saw it? How?" Aang asked. "I didn't." "'Cause you're not a ninja," Raph answered. "When you train to work in the shadows, you tend to notice even the littlest of things. Plus we've seen a few gambling games back in New York too," Mikey added. The dealer stopped moving the shells and motioned for his customer to pick one. The man picked the center shell, but when the dealer lifted it, there was no pebble. The man gasped and began to cry as he likely lost a great deal of money. The people began to disperse. "Quick, everyone, act natural," Mikey whispered to the group while it appeared most of them, save for Toph, were looking away when the dealer saw the group. He saw Toph was blind and smirked. "You there, wanna play a friendly game?" "How can I possibly play?" Toph asked. "I'm blind." She waved her hand in front of her face to show it. Raph smirked at Toph's act. "You don't have to see to be lucky." Toph got down on her knees and maintained the act as she felt along the table for the shells. She pulled a silver piece which she swiped from Aang earlier from her pocket and put it on the table. The dealer lifted the shells to reveal the pebble. The one in the middle. Mikey told Toph, going along with her act. The dealer put the shells back down and began to move them. As he moved them, Raph noticed the dealer slipping 2 additional pebbles into the empty shells in order to give Toph some confidence, which he could play off later. Raph smirked at this attempt, as did Toph. When he stopped moving them, she pointed to the one on the right. The dealer lifted it to reveal a pebble. "You got it," Mikey stated, still going with the act. "Flame yo, Toph," Aang said as well, but he was convinced Toph wasn't doing an act. "Wow, fancy guessing." The dealer congratulated as he threw down 2 silver pieces, which Mikey took. "You are amazing at this. Would you like to make the game a little more interesting?" he asked as he played with some coins in his fingers. "Here it comes." Raph had an idea of what he was going to do. "More interesting. How?" Toph asked, still going with the act. "Well, let's say you toss in your friend's fine sword there," the dealer pointed to Sokka's sword. "Then I'll put up 20 silver pieces against it." The dealer took up a bag of said coins. "And that's more interesting." Raph grabbed Sokka's sword and held it towards the dealer. "She'll do it for 40 silver pieces." Sokka's jaw hung low while Mikey chuckled. The dealer maintained his confident smirk. 40 silver pieces it is." The dealer began to move the shells around at a quick pace. Aang and Sokka had trouble keeping up with it as their eyes dotted back and forth. Mikey was able to keep track however, while Raph was looking at something else. He then noticed the dealer discreetly slip 2 of the pebbles into his sleeves. Right when he was about to do the last one, Toph clenched her hand for a small bit of earthbending to keep the pebble in place. Raph smirked. The dealer stopped moving. Toph smirked as she pointed to the one in the middle. "Sorry little lady," the dealer began only to look in honest shock as he saw the pebble was still there and even looked at it with his eye up close. "Sorry pal," Raph stated as he took back Sokka's sword, and the bag of 40 silver pieces. "You lose." Raph gave a toothy smirk while Mikey stuck his tongue out at him. The group then ran off with their newly acquired money. The 2 turtles and 3 members of Team Avatar walked back towards their campsite and most were laughing at what they just accomplished, and bought a great deal of food and supplies to last a good long time. "That was awesome," Mikey exclaimed. "Raph, we've got to take Toph to Vegas." "For once Mikey, I agree completely," Raph replied with a grin. "Where's this Vegas place?" Aang asked. "I'll tell you when you're old enough," Raph replied. They made it back to the campsite where Appa was sleeping. Leo was practicing some Tai Chi, Don was writing on a notepad, and Katara was making the group some stew. The group dropped their baskets. "Someone's been busy," Don noted. "Where did you guys get the money to buy all this stuff?" Katara asked. "Toph got us money," Mikey answered. "She didn't beat up people for, did she?" Leo questioned. No, not at all," Aang replied as he ate an apple and sat down. "She scammed one of those guys in town who moves the shells all sneaky like." "Oh yeah, I know that game," Don said, as he seemed mildly impressed. Leo looked a bit with concern though, while Katara had a look of disapproval as everyone sat down. "She used earthbending to win the game. Classic," Sokka exclaimed. "Yeah, for a kid, she wasn't half bad," Raph complimented as he sat next to Toph and ruffled her hair. "Ah, so she cheated," Katara stated in a disapproving sort of way, giving a slight glare at Toph who bit a piece of her apple. "Hey, I only cheated because he was cheating. I cheated a cheater, what's wrong with that?" Toph questioned with a smile. "Seriously, that dude was practically stealing people's money. I'd say justice served," Mikey said in agreement with Toph. "I think, justice served, would be giving all the money he stole back to the people he scammed them from," Don pointed out. "Come on D, don't be such a killjoy," Raph pointed out. "Now we got enough food for us to last about 2 weeks. That's pretty good, isn't it?" "Okay, I admit that was pretty resourceful Toph, and thanks for buying more food as we were in fact low on money," Leo told her. "You're welcome," Toph replied. "But," Leo continued, "this kind of thing is something we should only really do if we don't have any other options. We don't need any unwanted attention." "Leo's right," Katara agreed. This isn't something we should be making a habit of doing. Why? 'Cause it's fun, and you two hate fun. Toph cracked. I resent that. Mikey pointed out. Katara does know how to have fun. Remember that whole, painted lady thing? That was kind of fun. Thanks Mikey. Katara told him in a tone that said she approved of his point. What about you Leo? You hate fun too. Toph joked to him. Oh yeah, guy's a great fighter. Raph joined with Toph, but his version of a fun time is training. Total tool. He and Toph joked and laughed. Leo decided not to respond to that and turned to the young avatar. Aang, you of all people know how important it is for us to stay low. We only need to get what we need. Aang stood up. Leo, Katara, I'll personally make you an avatar promise that we won't make a habit out of doing these scams. He revealed his arrow tattoo and made a bowing gesture. While this happened, Toph and Raph leaned in close. Got any more tips? She whispered. Kid, class is in session. Raph whispered back as they both snickered. What happened next would be a montage of our favorite mischief makers doing the exact opposite of what Leo and Katara advised. The group consisting of Toph, Raph, Sokka, Aang, and Mikey, came by a game of some form of dice where two con artists were behind it. They noticed the blind Toph and invited her to join. She entered and placed her bets. She threw the dice and they rolled on the ground. When it looked like one was about to land on a bad side, Sokka and Mikey grimaced as the con artist slowly smiled. Raph smirked, as did Toph who motioned her head, causing the dice to land on the good side. Mikey and Sokka cheered while the con artists hollered in defeat. They later came to a high striker game at a local carnival. A strongman failed to hit the bell with the hammer and slumped in defeat. They all looked to see a hooded Raph holding up a growing bag of money. He picked up the hammer and held up above his shoulder. He smirked towards Toph as Raph placed the hammer on the ground behind him. Toph then stomped on the ground, causing a small rock to spring up. Adding that to Raph's own strength, the hammer slammed down, causing the ball to soar straight up and destroy the bell, and the ball continued to fly up. Everyone's jaws dropped as the hooded Raph walked up and took a chest of the money that was wagered. At the same time, Aang, a hooded Mikey, and Sokka were at a ball throwing game at the carnival, where the top prize was a large amount of money. Sokka threw the ball at one of the stacks of bottles, but only managed to knock a few down. Sokka pouted as Aang patted his back. Mikey made motions to step aside as he places his own bet. The dealer handed him a ball. Mikey licked his finger, as he was about to throw. He turned around with his back facing the game where he threw the ball and it bounced off the far side and it soared and brought down all 4 stacks of bottles. The dealer's jaw dropped as Mikey snapped his fingers. Aang and Sokka brought him the prize money and they walked away. A horse-drawn carriage, carrying what appeared to be a very wealthy man, passed down the street. Raph and Mikey hung back in the shadows of an alleyway as Toph slowly walked out towards the carriage. Mikey and Raph both held out 2 balls in each of their hands and smirked to each other as they both threw them right at the wheels of the carriage, causing it to stumble hard. Toph then fell to the ground to make it look like she was run over. The man came out and looked freaked at the fallen Toph before trying to run, but Sokka suddenly appeared with his favorite beard and mustache disguise, along with a stick as though he were a law enforcement officer. The rich man fell on his knees and tried to bribe him with a bag of money. He kept going with more bags until Sokka had about 12 bags. He then winked to the man. Campsite. The group had all their money and spoils collected, though 2 certain individuals clearly did not approve. Well, apparently an avatar promise isn't worth very much, Leo said to Aang in a disapproving way. Aang sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. Sorry Leo. Well we're not, Mikey exclaimed as he held and toyed with multiple coins in his green fingers. Check it. We're loaded. This is a freaking gold mine. All that glitters is not gold, Mikey. Don pointed out. What does that mean? Sokka asked. It means that this gold mine is gonna blow up in our faces sooner or later. Don translated. He's right. Katara agreed. These scams have gone far enough. If we keep doing them, something bad gonna happen. Hey, since when did you and Sokka switch roles? Raph asked. What? Katara questioned. First he was the killjoy, now it seems the title of Buzz Kill has fallen to you. Raph replied to Katara with a smirk. Congrats Leo, you're not the only one anymore. Guys, stop joking around and take this seriously. Leo pointed out. I think you're all getting addicted to this. And addictions never end well. Geez, loosen up, Leo. Toph flipped him a coin. Maybe you can learn how to have fun if you do. Oh, so you want him to be more like you and Raph? Katara questioned. Like some wild child. Duh, Raph replied. I mean, look at all of us. Toph began. We're all traveling the world, making easy money, having fun, with no parents to tell us what to do. She fell back in relaxation. Katara then got a knowing smirk. Ah, I see, you're acting like this because of your parents. Her parents? Leo questioned. Raph glared. You do not want to go there, Katara. Katara ignored Raph and explained to Leo. They were controlling over her, so she ran away, and now she acts like they don't exist. She may act like she hates them, but she really doesn't, she just feels guilty. I do hate them, Toph replied hastily. I don't think so, Katara said in response. I think you miss them, but you just don't want to deal with that, so instead you act like this crazy person. That left a mark as Toph shot up with anger. Look, I ran away to help Aang. That's enough. Leo tried to break them up. We've got more than enough money, we don't need anything else. Right. It's bad enough we got a bunch of evil, freaky mutants hunting us. Katara explained. No offense, guys, she quickly said to all the turtles. None taken. Raph, Leo, Don, and Mikey all replied at the same time. Speaking of those evil guys, I've got the perfect name for that group. Sokka tried. Big ugly, evil copy turtles. Mikey shrugged. Dark turtles sounds cooler. Keep it plain and simple. Sokka put a hand to his chin. The dark turtles. Yeah, that does sound better. This was largely ignored. We have enough money. You guys need to stop. Katara exclaimed. I'll stop when I wanna stop and not when you guys tell me. Toph snatched the bag of money and stormed away before creating an earth tent around her. Raph then glared at Katara. Okay, sweetheart, that whole thing with her parents wasn't cool. I don't remember asking you. Katara glared back. I'll bet you're the one who's telling her it's okay to do stuff like this. Don't try and change the subject. Do you even know what her folks have done? Raph exclaimed. They sent a couple of low-life bounty hunters to try and kidnap her. That's low. How'd you like it if I said a bunch of crap about your mom? Don't even go there. Katara warned. Why not? You did it with Toph. Raph questioned as their glares were inches from each other's faces. Leo broke them apart. That's enough. Katara, you probably could have handled that better, but Raph, you need to back off. She's right, these scams have gone far enough. Quit while you guys are ahead. Raph scoffed. You ask me, I'd say you're afraid. You're right, I am. Leo replied. I'm afraid of what happens if Shredder finds us. Bro, the Shredder thinks Aang's dead. Raph argued. Exactly, he thinks Aang's dead. Not us. Leo argued back. He knows how much of a threat we are, do you wanna just tell him where to find us? Is that what you want? He ain't gonna find us. We're ninjas, not cowards. Raph shot back. Hooyah, if all you're gonna do is have us run. Fearless leader. Raph walked away and bumped Leo's shoulder. It was quiet for a few seconds. Sokka decided to get away from this. Hey, if anyone needs me, I'll be spending some of this money, see you guys later. He took up a bag of coins and began to walk away. Don, go with him. Leo told the purple-clad turtle. Make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. Yeah, got it. Don replied as he got up and followed Sokka. Fire Nation Town. Sokka and the hooded Don both walked out of the small tower filled with messenger hawks as Sokka just purchased one. Haki, welcome to Team Avatar. My name's Sokka and I'm your new owner. Sokka greeted his new pet on his arm with Don behind him. Why do you even need a messenger bird? Don questioned. He then sighed in realization. You're just spending money just to spend it, aren't you? Sokka smiled. Guilty as charged. He then turned back to his hawk. Haki, I should warn you there's already a lemur in the group, so I don't want to see any fighting. Haki chirped in response. Good little messenger hawk. Who's got pretty feathers? Sokka cooed as he scratched the hawk with his finger. Don rolled his eyes with an amused smile. But Don's smile vanished as he looked to the wall and saw a wanted poster of a certain earthbender they all knew. Sokka. Sokka looked to what Don saw and gasped. He took the wanted poster from the wall. It blew up in our faces, didn't it? Sokka questioned to Don. Yep. Don confirmed as Haki caught a bit, before relieving himself on Sokka's arm, much to his dismay. Team Avatar's campsite. While Aang and Katara were practicing waterbending down below near the river, and while Mikey and Leo were sparring not too far away from them, Raph was lying on top of Appa's back, while Toph was sorting all the bronze, silver, and gold pieces she's collected on their scams. Don and Sokka, with Haki on his shoulder, both walked up towards Toph, not noticing Raph lying down on Appa. Toph, we've got some bad news. Don pointed out as he held out the wanted poster. Well, it sounds like a sheet of paper. But I guess you're referring to what's on the sheet of paper. Toph replied. Don mentally smacked himself for forgetting Toph was blind. It's a wanted poster of you. Sokka told her. Raph heard this and immediately shot up from his spot with wide-eyed surprise, but no one seemed to notice him. They've nicknamed you the Runaway. A wanted poster. Toph exclaimed in excitement. That's so great. The Runaway. I love my new nickname. Is there a picture of me? Does it look good? Sokka looked at the picture of her on the poster before looking at Toph herself in comparison. Well, yeah, actually, it does look pretty good. That's not the point, Toph. Don stated. Leo and Katara were right. These scams are drawing too much attention, the exact opposite of what we need right now. Don't be such worrywarts like those two. Toph brushed off. She took up 2 sacks of money. Think of it this way, now you two have plenty of money to help with the invasion plan. She presented the sacks of money. Don looked skeptical, whereas Sokka seemed to catch the bait. Well, that is true. Sokka considered. I had this idea of making armor for Appa. The Sky Bison's right eye opened in response. Toph handed Sokka 2 gold pieces. Here's a little extra so you can get yourself a nice map of the Fire Nation. You know what? Make it an atlas. She handed him the whole bag, causing Sokka to smile even more. I do like expensive atlases. Sokka took the bag, while Don's eyelids lowered and he lightly face-palmed. Of course you do. Toph took the wanted poster from Don's hands. And that's why this wanted poster is going to stay our little secret. She hid it away and began to walk away, but Don stood in front of her. You can bribe Sokka, but not me. Don told the young earthbender. But you're also, not a rat, right? Toph questioned, irritably. My sensei's a rat, remember? Don reminded. Toph then remembered. Oh, right, sorry. But you know what I mean, you're no tattletale, cause if you are. Don held up his hand. I won't say anything, if you decide to stop with these scams, right now. Why should I? Toph asked with crossed arms. It's either that, or I tell Leo and Katara. Don told her. Your call. Toph glared with her dull eyes for a few seconds before sighing. Fine. She then walked away, however, Don failed to notice that Toph had her fingers crossed. Meanwhile, Leo, Aang, Katara, and Mikey managed to join up with Don and Sokka. Is that a hawk? Leo questioned as he saw the bird on Sokka's shoulder. Cool. Mikey simply said with a smile. Katara however placed a hand on her forehead. Sokka, tell me you didn't buy a bird. Not just any bird, a messenger bird. Sokka corrected with a cocked smile. Now we can send messages all over the world, even to Gran. Katara and Leo both rolled their eyes while Aang looked excited. Wow, how does it work? The young avatar questioned. Sokka looked thoughtful for a minute. I never actually thought about that. He just spent the money cause he wanted to. Don pointed out. Of course. Leo and Katara replied at the same time. Suddenly, Momo leapt onto Aang's shoulders and snarled at Haki before viciously leaping at him, and the two animals chased each other over Sokka, causing Mikey to laugh hard. Haki. Make nice. Bad Haki. As Mikey laughed he looked towards Katara. Aw, come on, you gotta admit, that's pretty funny. Katara had to smile a bit as she playfully rolled her eyes and began to walk away as everyone else tried to pull the animals apart. As she did, Raph leapt off the side of Appa and landed in front of her. What do you want? She questioned to the red-clad turtle with a scowl. Raph heard everything that happened in the last few minutes and decided to take action. He began to walk past Katara when he said something to her. Check Toph's tent. Katara turned around to him with surprise as he walked away. Wah, Raph, what are? Just do it, Raph told her. And you didn't hear it from me. Raph then walked away, leaving a confused Katara. She then began to think of what he meant by that. Raph hated to do something like this, and he probably wouldn't admit it, but Leo and Katara were right, this was gonna explode like dynamite. A couple hours later, Leo, Raph, Dawn, and Aang were having something to eat as Katara attended to some stew and water bent it into Appa's mouth for him to drink. Mikey, Sokka, and Toph all returned to the campsite with some more bags of money. Dawn glared at Toph, who just stuck her tongue out at him. "Well, look who's back," Leo noted. "Let me guess, you guys were scamming again." "Yes we were," Toph replied, not turning around. Katara and Leo both appeared behind her. "And I don't suppose you don't think what you're doing is dangerous at all?" Katara questioned. "No I don't," Toph replied back. "Oh really?" Leo questioned as well. "Yes, really," Toph replied back once more. Katara then reached into her pocket. "Well then, what's this?" She presented a familiar sheet of paper. "I don't know," Toph yelled. "I mean, seriously, what's with you people? I'm blind." She pulled down her eyelids for emphasis to show them. "It's a wanted poster of you," Leo exclaimed to her. Raph closed his eyes as he sat back, waiting for the inevitable argument. "The runaway," Katara added. "Is that what you're called now? Are you proud of this? Where did you get that?" Toph questioned. Katara may not have liked Raph too much, was not about to rat him out. "It doesn't matter where I got it, the fact is. You went through my stuff." Toph interrupted. "You had no right. Your stuff was messy, I was straightening up, and I happened to stumble across it." Katara lied, and Toph could tell. "That's a lie. You're lying, Katara," Toph exclaimed as she pointed her finger at her face. Leo shoved Toph's finger from Katara's face. "Fine, so she lied, but that's not the point right now. You got people hunting you down now, which is the complete opposite of what we're trying to do. You're addicted to these scams, Toph. What did you think was gonna happen?" Toph didn't answer as she snatched back the wanted poster and began to storm away. "Toph, listen when I'm talking to you," Leo exclaimed to her. "You're not my dad," she shot back at him. "No, but I am the leader of this team," Leo replied. "Maybe you should just marry Katara since she's basically acting like my mom too," Toph immaturely exclaimed. "But you guys aren't my parents, and you're not their parents." She gestured to Raph, Aang, Mikey, Dawn, and Sokka, with Haki still on his shoulder. "We never said that," Katara exclaimed. "No, but you guys certainly act like it," Toph exclaimed back. "You think it's your job to boss us all around, but it's not. You're just a regular kid like the rest of us, Katara, and you're a teenage mutant ninja turtle, Leo. So stop acting like you can tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want." Leo glared, while Katara looked a bit uncertain. "I don't act that way," she tried before turning to the group. "Sokka, do I act motherly?" "Hey, I'm staying out of this one." Sokka threw up his hands. Katara turned to the next one. "What do you think, Aang? Do I act like a mom?" "Well, Aang stuttered as he nervously rubbed his eye. "Stop rubbing your eye and speak clearly while you talk," Katara told him. "Yes ma'am," Aang quickly replied. Leo turned back to the Earthbender. "No Toph, we're not your parents, but this isn't about you. Your actions are going to endanger the entire group. What'll happen if the bad guys find out where we are and come after us? Have you thought about that?" "Shut up Leo, you don't know what you're talking about," Toph exclaimed. "Yes I do," Leo yelled at her. "You don't know Shredder. If he finds out. Shredder this, Shredder that, quit making such a big deal out of him. He's just one guy," Toph exclaimed even further. "One guy who almost killed the Avatar," Leo reminded. "You even tried fighting him and he took you down in mere seconds. Remember, I may not know anything about your parents, but I don't think you being dead is what they want. How do you think your mother would feel if that happened? What do you know? You don't even have a mom," Toph told him. That caused Leo's eyes to widen. Katara gasped at that, while Aang and Sokka looked surprised. Mikey and Dawn's eyes widened as well, and even Raph was taken aback. It was silent for a minute before Katara spoke up with an angry glare. "Toph, how can you say that? What? It's true. I'm only stating a fact. Can you even hear yourself?" Katara tried, but Leo put a hand out in front of her. Leo had his other hand clenched into a fist as he had some anger building up inside. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath to try and calm himself. He opened his eyes and spoke with a calm voice but with glaring eyes. "This subject is not up for debate," Leo told the young earthbender. "As long as I am still breathing, I am the leader of this team. You are done. I don't care what you have to say, you're done with these scams. That is final." Leo then began to walk away. "Leo, bro," Mikey tried but he was already pretty far away. He then turned to Toph. "That wasn't cool." "Got that right," Katara agreed. "You have to apologize to him." I can't be around any of you right now." Toph stormed away. "Well, I can't be around you." Katara stormed off as well. Once the three were gone, they left the remainder of the group alone in silence. "Did it just get really quiet here all of a sudden?" Dawn asked. Haki screeched. "I know Haki, why can't they just get along?" Sokka questioned as well. Later in the afternoon, the sun was low and the sky was orange. Leo was somewhere away from the campsite while Toph and Katara sat on opposite ends, far away from each other. In the middle of it sat Aang, Raph, Sokka, still with Haki on his shoulder, Mikey, and Dawn. Sokka soon got an idea. "Hey guys, I've got an idea." "What is it?" Aang asked. "I'll use my messenger hawk to send a note to Katara, and another to Leo, and say they're from Toph who wants to apologize. And then everyone will be friends again." Raph, Dawn, and even Mikey all sighed as they face-palmed at the exact same time. "What?" Sokka questioned. "Toph is blind, you moron." Raph told Sokka. "She can't write a letter." "Seriously Sokka, even I know that." Mikey deadpanned. Realization hit Sokka like a rock. "Oh, right." Aang soon thought of something. "Hey, what if we make it so Leo sent a message to Toph?" "What part of Toph is blind, didn't you understand?" Dawn asked. "She wouldn't be able to read it." "So what do we do then?" Aang asked. "I mean, I hate it when my friends fight." "Welcome to our world." Dawn rolled his eyes, being all too familiar with this sort of thing. "Family squabbles are typical in our group." Raph sighed as he got up. "Let me handle this." He began to walk towards Toph while the group looked in surprise. Was this the same Raph they knew? Since when did Raph become the voice of reason? Sokka questioned with circular eyes. Raph walked up to the sitting Toph. "Kid, we need to talk." At a nearby cliffside, Leo took out his swords to get some practicing done. As he swung them, the whole mom comment from Toph stuck and it burnt quite a bit. Leo began to get a bit angry as he let off some steam. He kicked up a series of rocks and angrily swung his katanas and cut them down to little bits of dust and pebbles as he angrily breathed in and out. He soon took a deep breath and calmed down. Out of the corner of his eye though, he spotted Toph and Raph a distance away and the two sat down on the edge with the river below. Below said edge was also Katara, who was bathing in the river in an attempt to cool herself off. "So, what do you wanna talk about, Raph?" Toph asked as they sat down. Neither of them seemed to notice Leo or Katara in their respective spots listening to the conversation. "Just about all that crap back there between you and them," Raph told her. Toph groaned. "Seriously, how do you live with someone like Leo? You know that whole mom thing you said to him, that really stung." Raph pointed out. "I said that to him, not you." Toph replied. "Yeah, but he's my brother, so are Dawn and Mikey. I know it wasn't aimed at all of us, but you did kind of include us in it. And, I didn't really like it either." Raph got those last words out and Toph seemed to get it. "Oh, well, sorry. You know we're still friends, right Raph?" she asked. "Yeah, and that's why I'm here right now." Raph told her. "You say Leo and Katara are both being bossy and you're right." As Raph talked, Katara heard this and looked away with a scowl, while Leo had a look that said he wasn't surprised as he expecting this from Raph. "I know, major pain, right?" Toph tried. "Actually kid, I sort of rely on that kind of thing." Raph pointed out. That caught both Leo and Katara's attention. "What do you mean?" Toph asked. "I can't speak a whole lot for Katara." Raph began. "But try and look at it from her point of view. Her mom is dead, I may have a mom, but I know how that feeling goes. This one time, we lost Master Splinter and had no idea whether he was dead or alive. And the thought of him being gone, and not coming back, that scares me." Toph was surprised. "You, scared? Yeah, but, You're not scared of anything. I've been with you this whole time and you kick serious butt. Toph recalled. I ain't invincible, Toph. And Leo is right about Shredder. I'm not scared of him, I'm scared of what he can do. The first time my brothers and I fought him, he kicked our shells all over the place. I actually thought we were going to die, for real. That's how serious this is. I know he's tough but, seriously. Toph stuttered. Dead serious. Raph told her. I don't want that to happen to you, and neither does Leo. He's the leader of the team, and he's more than fit to do it. Raph looked down a bit. I never told him this, but he's a natural-born leader. Leo heard this and was surprised to say the least. But, what about you? Toph asked. Didn't you want to be leader? Yeah, I did. Raph admitted truthfully. But, Leo's a much better fit than me. I may be strong, but I can also be a major hothead. He's always the level-headed one. Whenever I would lead, I always lead the group into trouble. Raph then began to recount a memory. This one time when we were kids, I brought him to a closed-off section of the sewer back home. We were playing Follow the Leader. Flashback. Little Raph and Little Leo played their game in the sewers as Little Raph began to pull boards off the entrance to the closed-off area. Raph, you can't go in there. Little Leo told him. Hey, it's my turn. You're supposed to follow my lead. Little Raph replied back as he pulled off a board. But Splinter says, when are you gonna think for yourself? Little Raph questioned. That's what a real leader does. He kicked off some boards and left himself an opening. Now catch me if you can. He ran in. Little Leo kicked off some more boards for his own opening and followed his brother. Little Raph hopped on a drifting piece of wood in the sewer's water current. Wahoo! He yelled as he rode it down the tunnel. Little Leo mimicked his action with his own board. They rode for a bit as Little Raph got ahead and came upon a spot where he had to hop off as he found a drainage junction. Huh, dead end, he began to think. Must have taken a wrong turn. He then noticed something moving in the water below him. Leo. All of a sudden, a massive albino crocodile sprung out of the water, causing Little Raph to stumble back. He quickly got up to his feet and ran away screaming with the albino crocodile right behind him, roaring and snapping its jaws. It was about to bite down on Little Raph, but Little Leo jumped and pushed his brother out of the way. As the croc tried to get up, it accidentally slammed its head on the roof of the tunnel. Come on, let's jet, Little Leo exclaimed as he jumped over the croc's tail. No way, Little Raph protested as he faced the glaring croc. This walking handbag's intruding on our turf. You're the intruder, shell for brains. Now let's get out of here. Little Leo gestured to run, but Little Raph wouldn't have it. Hey, I'm the leader of this turn, remember? Little Raph reminded as he punched his right fist into his left palm with a smirk. He jumped towards the croc. Fine, handle it your way, Little Leo told him as he watched Little Raph clamp onto the croc's jaws and held the mouth closed. The croc struggled as it went back into the water at the drainage junction and got back up to shake him off. Can I offer a strategy tip? Little Leo suggested. No, Little Raph exclaimed as he still held the jaws of the large thrashing croc. It sunk back down for a few seconds before coming back up. I got him on the ropes. Little Raph yelled as the croc tried to shake him off. He's right where I want him. Little Leo moved out of the way as the croc slammed his jaw, and Little Raph, onto the ceiling of the tunnel, and knocked Little Raph off. He got back up with a scared look as the croc extended his free jaws to chow down. Right, that's it. Little Leo jumped high and landed on the massive croc's head, and immediately put his finger hard on the croc's left cheek. It roared for a minute before falling asleep. What did you do? What did you do? The surprised Little Raph asked. Little Leo hopped down with a smile as he dusted his hands. Hey, pressure points. Alligator pressure points, Little Raph questioned as Little Leo helped him up. Little trick Master Splinter taught me. Little Leo explained. Come on, he won't sleep forever. How about another round of follow the leader? As in, back home. Little Leo ran down towards the exit. Lead the way, Little Raph replied with a smile as he followed him. Present time. Raph had finished telling the story to Toph. Wow, that was the only word she could think of. Yeah, Leo really saved my shell back there. Raph told her. And that wasn't the only time. Leo's the leader of the team, and he's also the oldest brother. It's his job to look after us. Leo heard every word from the spot he was still at. And I think Katara also follows along those lines. Raph continued. Nagginess aside, she's looking out for you, for everyone, just like Leo. You say she acts all motherly, but I kinda like that about her. Katara heard that from her spot as well and looked with a surprised expression on her face. What do you mean? Toph asked. Like you said before, we don't have a mom. Raph began. I mean, yeah, we got Master Splinter and he's awesome, but sometimes when my brothers and I go out on the surface, and we see families with moms, dads, and kids, a part of me kind of wonders what it would be like to have a mom. I've never had that before and well, Raph sighed. It kind of makes me want one. Toph listened to all of this and was starting to get choked up a bit. Yeah, Leo and Katara both act bossy, but that's not really a bad thing. They're both there and they actually care about me. Some tears were welling up in her eyes. The real me. That's more than my own parents. As Katara heard all this, she sunk a bit in the water and let some tears flow down her face. Leo heard everything as well and took a deep sigh as he sat down by a rock. Raph gave a slight chuckle. Toph, we all care about the real you. Hell, the real you is the coolest 12-year-old on this stinkin' planet. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The red-clad turtle stood up and was about to walk away. Hey, Raph. He turned around when Toph called him. She stood up and slowly walked to him. He found himself surprised when she latched her arms around him and buried her head in his chest. Her head was just below his rib cage when Raph placed a hand on the top of her head. Toph's grip around him tightened. If you tell anyone I told you all this, I'll beat you senseless. Raph smiled. I'd be disappointed if you didn't, kid. Later that evening, Leo and Katara were both back at the campsite and spotted Toph and Raph heading in their general direction. Raph ruffled Toph's hair one more time before walking away as Toph went to the two older individuals and they met her halfway. Hey Toph, Katara tried. Guys, stop, you don't need to apologize. Toph began. I was the one being stupid. She turned to blue-clad turtle. Leo, I'm sorry about what I said with that whole mom thing. It was a stupid thing of me to say and I didn't really mean it. Leo gave a smile. Apology accepted. Toph smiled before turning to Katara. You and Leo were right, Katara. These scams are out of control and I'm done with them. The Leo and Katara both shared a knowing smile. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Katara began. We were thinking about pulling off a scam with you. Leo told her. The entire group was completely shocked. Aang, Sokka, and Mikey all had flastergated looks on their faces. Don dropped everything he had, and Raph spat out his drink. What? A surprised Toph questioned. You guys wanna pull a scam? Not just any scam, the ultimate scam. Leo replied with a grin. Mikey, Sokka, and Aang all comically fainted when they heard that. So what do you say, Toph? Katara asked with a mischievous grin. Just us. One last go. You in? Toph smiled evilly. You know I'm in, so what's this idea of yours? Raph merely grimaced from his spot as he had a very bad feeling about this while Don tried to help everyone else back on their feet. This whole thing was Leo's idea, and it's actually brilliant. Katara told Toph as the three sat together in a small circle. Leo then began as he held up Toph's wanted poster. This wanted poster has a bounty on you that is 10 times the worth of all your scams. So, Katara is going to help capture you and get the reward money. Once she has it, you use your metal bending to break out of the cell and you both come back to the campsite. Simple enough. So where are you on this? Toph asked. I can't really be seen here. Leo explained. The authorities are going to want to see my face if I'm involved and that's not really an option. So I'll be back at the campsite. Sound like a plan. The best plan you ever came up with. Toph excitedly exclaimed. But, once we both get back here we're gonna have to leave. This will be our last scam. Katara said. Got it. Toph replied. Now let's get to work. The next day. Toph was running through the Fire Nation town and towards a large statue of Ozai that shot fire out of its fists and mouth like some sort of fire fountain. As she ran, a few police officers threw a net and she found herself completely entangled in it. How could you do this to me? You betrayed me, Toph exclaimed, as part of the act. Katara looked down on her with a fake glare. You brought this on yourself, I had no choice. She turned around with crossed arms. As they dragged off Toph, Katara had a knowing smirk on her face, indicating they pulled it off. A law enforcement officer walked towards her. You did the right thing by turning in the runaway. The right thing is its own reward. Katara said. Well, I'm happy to hear you say that. But, I still want the actual reward. Katara pointed out. Of course, right this way. The officer began to lead her to his office. Toph was pulled into a building that served as the town's jailhouse, still entangled in the net. The female officer who pulled her dragged her towards a certain cell and threw her in. When Toph got out of the net as the officer closed the gate, she felt something off about it. Hey, what kind of cell is this? Toph questioned. A wooden one. The officer answered, causing Toph's eyes to widen in shock. The officer was pulling out a box supposedly filled with the reward he was about to present to Katara, when she failed to notice a large individual with a brown hooded robe entering from the door behind her. But the officer saw him clearly. That's her. That's the girl you were looking for. Katara turned around in surprise to see the individual, but he took off his hood to reveal his face as Dark Leo. Thank you for your cooperation. Dark Leo told the officer as he looked down on Katara with an evil grin, causing her to look in horror. Team Avatar's campsite. The remainder of the group found themselves waiting for Toph and Katara to return, but they had been waiting for at least 2 hours, which was too long. Aang even found himself pacing. Something's not right, Raph pointed out. Yeah, you think their scam should be taking this long? Aang wordily wondered. No, it shouldn't, Leo pointed out. Come on, let's check it out. Sokka turned to Haki and Momo. You two behave, Appa's in charge. The 4 turtles, young Avatar, and non-Bender, all left to check on their friends. Once they left, Momo and Haki screeched and snarled at each other, but Appa gave a loud roar for them to stop, which they did immediately. Katara and Toph both sat alone in the wooden cell they shared, when Toph suddenly realized something. Wait, it's a trap, really? Katara replied in clear sarcasm. No kidding. Is that why we're sitting in a wooden cage right now? Gee, how'd you figure out it was a trap? Not for us, Katara. Toph replied. We're just the bait. Those rip-off turtles want Aang. Katara realized Toph was right with wide eyes. I can't believe I was so stupid. You see, this is why Leo and I were against these scams. We knew this would happen. But this was yours and Leo's idea, remember? Toph reminded. I know. Katara sunk. I wanted to show you that I'm not so motherly. I wanted to show you that I can have fun too. Katara, you are fun. Toph told her. If nothing else, you're at least fun to argue with. She said in a slight smile. I know your relationship with your parents is complicated, and I shouldn't have said what I said. Katara told her apologetically. It's okay. Toph replied. I was really mad when you said that because maybe it's true. A few tears began to form in her eyes. I try not to think about it, but when I left, I probably really hurt them. Toph sobbed and cried slightly, while Katara pulled her in for a comforting embrace. The hooded turtles, as well as Aang and Sokka, both walked through the town, which was unusually empty. Where do you think they might be? Sokka wondered. Where do you think anyone is? Aang wondered as well, referring to the entire town. Yeah, it's like a ghost town out here. Don said in agreement with Aang. Dudes, I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Mikey shuddered. Leo stopped for a second ahead of the group and held his hand out. He pulled off his hood and looked around. Anyone else feel like we were expected? Yeah, it's family reunion time in the Fire Nation. A new voice spoke out. This was from Dark Raph as he jumped down in front of them from a rooftop, followed by Dark Dawn, Dark Leo, and Dark Mikey. The Dark Turtles. Aang exclaimed in surprise as the turtles and Sokka each drew their respective weapons. I knew something stank around here. Raph growled. The Dark Turtles each yelled as they leapt high into the air and down towards the group of heroes, forcing them each to scatter. Raph was able to avoid a punch from Dark Raph that left a hole in the ground. Psycho clones. Raph growled again. Just another reason I hate this whole adventure. He continued to avoid the swings from Dark Raph's knuckle talons. Leo found himself backing up and parrying swords with Dark Leo, with Aang right behind him. Dark Leo performed a sweeping kick, causing Leo to jump while Dark Leo tried to slash at Aang with his left blade, but he covered both his hands in stone and caught the sword in a clap. Leo tried to slash down as he fell, but Dark Leo blocked it with his right blade and struggled against both of them. "Where are Katara and Toph?" Aang demanded. "What have you done with them? And where did you clones even come from anyway?" Leo demanded as well. Details. Dark Leo told them. "You two should be paying attention to more immediate matters, like keeping your heads on." Dark Leo pulled his blades back as he tried to swing and decapitate, but both Aang and Leo jumped back to avoid them. Dark Dawn swung relentlessly with his claws at Dawn and Sokka. Dawn jumped back as Sokka lunged forward with his space sword, but Dark Dawn was able to block it with his right arm guard and moved in to punch Sokka in the gut and send him back, while Dawn came in under Sokka with the swing of his staff, which Dark Dawn blocked with both his arm guards but was knocked back still. Mikey backflipped backwards to get some distance between himself and Dark Mikey. He backflipped and jumped onto a house as Dark Mikey hit the ground where Mikey used to be, and Mikey used this moment to jump down and kick Dark Mikey in the chest, causing him to crash into a wall. Wooden cell. Despite still being in a wooden cage with no earth, Toph was still able to tell what was going on with her advanced hearing. "The fighting has stated." "Well, what are we going to do?" Katara questioned. "I don't know," Toph replied. "I wish we had some earth or water, we need bendables." Katara got an idea. "Well, what about your meteor bracelet? You could make a saw." "I left it back at camp," Toph revealed as she and Katara slumped. "I was worried they would take it." Katara felt how hot it was in the cell and rubbed her forehead. She then saw the sweat on her hand and soon got an idea. She then began to run in place to build up more sweat. Katara. "Are you okay?" Toph asked confusedly. "Just fine," she replied as she continued running in place. "So what are you doing?" "I'm making my own water." Katara had enough sweat and began to waterbend a small blade, which she used to begin cutting through the wooden cell. Toph realized what she was doing and smiled. "Katara, you're a genius. A sweaty, stinky, genius," she exclaimed as Katara continued to cut through. Back outside, Raph and Dark Raph continued to clash as Raph avoided all the Talon Knuckle attacks from his larger clone. "You're one ugly turtle," Dark Raph stated. "Whoa, did you just call me ugly?" Raph questioned as he caught a Talon Knuckle in between his say and gave a flip kick to Dark Raph's jaw. "You look like something our toilet spit up." Dark Raph growled but was soon hit in the back with a series of boulders, courtesy of the newly Toph. "Seriously, I don't have to see to know just how ugly you are, you cheap knockoff," she cracked to Dark Raph as she bent an earth wave at him. Dark Raph however was able to plow through it with his shoulder as Raph jumped above him and joined Toph. "Good to see ya, kid. You okay?" "I will be, after we pound these losers." They both grinned as they charged at Dark Raph. Mikey was knocked back from Dark Mikey's club attack as Dark Mikey chuckled insanely as usual. "You know, this is just like the time Doc Dome had to fight his evil clone in the old Justice Force comics," Mikey stated. "Justice Force?" Dark Mikey questioned. "That book sucked eggs." That stung Mikey. "Justice Force, sucked eggs," he growled. "Blasphemy." Mikey grabbed Dark Mikey by his long parasitic tongue. "You're no clone of mine." Mikey soon screamed at what he just did. "I just touched my tongue," Mikey and Dark Mikey exclaimed at the same time. Before Dark Mikey knew it, he was swept up in a water whip and tossed aside, causing him to skid across the ground. Katara ran up close to Mikey. "You alright?" "Yeah, thanks sis," Mikey thanked, causing her to smile. However, despite the additions of both Toph and Katara, it would seem the heroes were on equal terms with the Dark Turtles. Despite the odds being 2-on-1, the Dark Turtles were more than capable of holding their own. It was evident they were prepared for this fight. Aang, Leo, Dawn, Sokka, Mikey, Katara, Toph, and Raph all found themselves in an 8-way back-to-back formation as the Dark Turtles surrounded them from all sides. "I seem to remember these guys going down a lot easier last time," Sokka recalled. "Looks like they were prepared," Aang guessed. "They think like just us, and move just like us," Dawn stated. "We still got one thing they don't," Leo told everyone in the group. "A real reason to fight. Everyone, switch opponents." The 8 young heroes all split up, but this time facing different enemies. Raph was parrying his say against the clubs of Dark Mikey. "I always wanted to kick Mikey's butt," Raph said excitedly as he slashed, but Dark Mikey blocked that one slash. In your dreams. Dark Mikey replied back. Raph jumped as Toph suddenly popped out of the ground with rock gauntlets on both her arms and grabbed Dark Mikey by his face with her right gauntlet. Okay, nighty-night. Toph stated as she reeled back her left gauntlet and punched Dark Mikey so hard he was sent flying through 2 buildings. He fell on the ground after the second building and let out several dazed grunts before falling unconscious. Katara covered both her arms with 2 long water whips as she parried the relentless punches from Dark Raph's knuckle talons. He tried to punch her, but she leapt to the side as he punched the ground. Mikey came in from behind Katara and flashed a nunchuck strike right to Dark Raph's jaw, and he roared at both of them. You know, as much as I hate to admit it, you are better looking than Raph. Mikey told him. Yeah, you're right, he does. Katara agreed with Mikey. Dark Raph actually took that to heart. You're kidding. You really think so? He asked with a smile. Katara and Mikey both looked to each other with confused blinks. It's called sarcasm, Captain Clueless. Mikey told him. Yeah, you might want to look it up when you wake up. Katara said in agreement as they went on the offensive. They each took turns with a nunchuck strike and water whip to Dark Raph's face. First Mikey, then Katara, then back to Mikey, and back to Katara again until they both came in at the same time with diagonal strikes from both a water whip and a nunchuck in the form of an X right in Dark Raph's face. He found himself dizzy as he was seeing stars. I'm pretty, he said dizzily before falling flat on the ground. Katara couldn't help but smirk. You know, there's something about beating up Raph that just feels so right. Mikey chuckled as he and Katara both fist bumped. Meanwhile, Aang was on rooftop using his own airbending speed to avoid the continuous slashes of Dark Dawn's claws. However, Dark Dawn snapped his tail at Aang and caused him to slide back to the edge of the rooftop. Look out! Behind you! Aang pointed behind Dark Dawn. Dark Dawn didn't appear to fall for it. Oh ha, ha, nice try. He didn't notice Leo running in from behind. But I'm a clone of the smart one, remember? Leo then struck from behind with both his feet, sending Dark Dawn right towards Aang, who inhaled a massive gust of air, before unleashing it right on Dark Dawn and sending him flying all the way to the other side of the town and crashing into a roof. Yeah, I remember. Aang answered to Dark Dawn's previous question as Leo helped him up. Sokka yelled as he slashed with his space sword at Dark Leo, but he was able to effortlessly block all his attacks. Dawn tried to come in with a pole vault kick, but Dark Leo jumped back and crossed his blades to block Dawn's kick and throw him off. However, everyone else soon surrounded Dark Leo as Mikey and Katara were behind him, Aang and Leo on the right, and Raph and Toph on the left. And then there was one. Dawn said to the only remaining Dark Turtle. One's all it takes. To kill the Avatar, and most of you. Dark Leo growled. And just how are you gonna do that, pal? Sokka questioned with a gloating smirk. Dark Leo had his own smirk as he put his blades back in his sheaths and pulled out from behind some form of laser gun and begun to fire a series of red lasers. The lasers exploded as they made contact with the ground, forcing all the turtles and kids to roll and duck for cover as Dark Leo continued to shoot. He stopped firing briefly to look at the rubble and smoke everywhere from his shots and didn't see anyone as they were hiding. Toph and Katara found themselves crouched around a corner of a nearby building. Toph's hearing was able to detect the sound of moving water as they were close to a small fountain nearby. She smirked. Hey Katara, I've got an idea. Toph whispered. I'm listening, Katara replied. Dark Leo continued to search and was growing frustrated. Where are you cowards? An answer soon came in the form of a large water tentacle that wrapped around Dark Leo's body and quickly froze into solid ice. He then suddenly found himself moving at a rapid pace. Toph was moving on a large earth ramp just like in the beginning with Katara riding with her in front and holding the water ice restraint around Dark Leo. "Aw, what's the matter?" Toph teased to Dark Leo. "Ever heard of a two-pronged attack?" Katara teased with a smirk as well as Toph's earth ramp excelled at an even faster speed. Dark Leo screamed at how fast he was moving and where he was heading as Toph and Katara quickly jumped off and Dark Leo soared right into the massive statue of Ozai and it soon collapsed all on top of him. Toph and Katara got back on their feet and high-fived. Yeah, both girls yelled excitedly. Raph whistled impressively as everyone caught up with them. Nice one. Wow, you guys make a great team. Aang congratulated. Yeah, we do. Katara agreed as she and Toph looked to each other with smiles. Leo smiled as well. Come on, we better get out of here before all our evil twins wake up. Yeah, good idea. Don agreed as well as the group began to make their way out of the partially destroyed town. Later that night, the large group of young heroes all flew away to a far and new campsite on Appa, in an effort to put as much distance between themselves and the dark turtles as possible, and came under a large rock formation with no towns nearby. Most of the group was getting off to get some sleep, even Sokka as he yawned. I'm exhausted. He turned to Haki on his arm. Haki, how about you, buddy? Haki cawed in response. Yeah, you're such a lazy little bird. Sokka told him as he slid off Appa. Before Katara got off, Toph held her arm quickly. Katara, I need your help. Katara sat down in front of her. What is it, Toph? Toph held up a sheet of paper. I need you to write some things down for me. I want to send a letter to my parents. Katara gave an honest smile. I'll be happy to help. Raph heard all of this from below and gave his own smile. He looked and saw his older brother setting up camp. Hey Leo, you got a sec? Raph asked as he walked up. Leo stood up and met his brother. Yeah, Raph. Raph rubbed the back of his neck. Look bro, I don't say it too often but, you're a great leader. And a pretty awesome brother too. So, yeah, you know what I mean. Leo smiled in understanding. Yeah, I do. He put a hand on his brother's shoulder. Thanks Raph. No prob. Raph replied before smirking. But don't let it get to your head bro. Leo gave his own smirk in response. That's why I have you here. They both turned and looked to see Katara place Toph's finished letter inside Haki's satchel and send the messenger hawk on its way. Hey, where's Haki? Sokka asked. This caused both Leo and Raph to chuckle. Chapter 21, The Puppet Master. It was late at night in the Fire Nation. A waxing gibbous moon hung over with an eerie white glow. It hung over a large mountain, surrounded by a dense forest. In this one particular forest, the group that is Team Avatar, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all hung by a campfire with Appa sleeping in a nearby cave. Sokka had suggested that they start sharing scary stories, and the turtles had one particular story in mind. And so Leo took the meteor spear and he jammed it right into that monster. Don continued to tell the tale. With the creature dead, the old guy instantly turned to dust. Mikey continued, because he was CF. Vopalheart. The turtles had finished telling the story of their battle against the necro monster after their friend, Angel's brother disappeared and they had to rescue him from some sort of alien demonic entity. The group of Team Avatar were hung onto the story and each had a different reaction. Aang shivered, Katara held onto her knees self-protectively while her eyes quivered. Even Toph was shaking a little bit. As for Sokka, he was hiding behind a bush with Momo, both their heads slowly peeking out. So, you guys killed some kind of demon from outer space that mind controls people into helping it. Toph summed up. Yeah, that's the sum of it. Raph replied. But not just that, it also fed off a person's fear. Leo explained. Imagine living your absolute worst fear, over, and over, and over again, until you die. Team Avatar looked freaked out. Okay, that's scary. Aang said with a shiver. Yeah, I don't know how I would handle something like that. Katara agreed. You guys sure you killed that thing? Sokka asked as he slowly walked out of the bushes. Oh yeah, that freak is long gone. Mikey assured, causing the group to look quite relieved as Mikey continued. Moral of the story, the light from the campfire highlighted the orange-clad turtle's face as he spoke in a dramatic voice. Perhaps there are some things man was never meant to tamper with. So, anyone got any other stories to tell? I'd like to see you beat that. Raph challenged. Well, I don't know about any demons, but this is a true Southern Water Tribe story. Katara said. Sokka looked skeptical as he sat down. Is this one of those, friend of my cousin knew some guy that this happened to, stories? No, it happened to Mom. Now Sokka was interested, it even caught the attention of Mikey, Leo, Don, and even Raph. One winter, when Mom was a girl, a snowstorm buried the whole village for weeks. A month later, Mom realized she hadn't seen her friend Nini since the storm. So Mom and some others went to check on Nini's family. When they got there, no one was home, just a fire, flickering in the fireplace. Aang, Mikey, and Sokka were starting to get more than a little nervous, Toph unconsciously moved a bit closer to Raph, who was listening intently with Leo and Dawn. While the men went out to search, Mom stayed in the house. When she was alone, she heard a voice. "It's so cold and I can't get warm." Katara made it sound like a little child with an extra creepy tone to it. Sokka was getting a bit jumpy. When Katara looked towards Mikey, he clung to Raph, who immediately shoved him off with his palm. Mom turned and saw Nini standing by the fire. Katara continued. She was blue, like she was frozen. Mom ran outside for help. But when everyone came back, Nini was gone. Aang held Momo close. Mikey and Sokka both ducked behind a large tree root. Leo, Toph, Dawn, and even Raph looked in surprise. "So, where'd she go?" Mikey nervously asked. "No one knows." Katara continued. "Nini's house stands empty to this day. But sometimes, people can still see smoke coming up from the chimney, like little Nini is still trying to get warm." It was silent for a bit. "Okay, I gotta admit that's a good one," Raph said. Toph then felt something that made her gasp. "Wait, guys, did you hear that?" Aang, Katara, Mikey, and Sokka all clung to each other with Momo in fear, while Leo, Raph, and Dawn shot up to their feet. "What? Hear what?" Dawn questioned. "I hear some people under the mountain. And they're screaming," Toph answered. "What?" Leo asked. The shaking group stopped shaking for a minute as Sokka tried to look confident. "PTTF, nice try." Mikey tried to look confident too. "Yeah, you're gonna have to do better than that." "No, I'm serious, I hear something," Toph insisted. "Is this a seismic sense thing?" Raph asked. "Well, I'm not hearing anything," Dawn reported. "You're probably just jumpy from the ghost stories, Toph," Katara assumed. Toph then heard silence. It just stopped. Now Leo looked concerned. "How can sudden screaming just stop? Are you sure you had something?" "Alright, now I'm getting scared," Aang said as he still hung to Katara. "Hello, children." The kids, and Mikey, all screamed as they ran to the other side of the campfire. The turtles immediately pulled up their hoods and drew their weapons, as they stood protectively in front of their friends ready for a fight. An elderly woman wearing a brown robe walked into the light with a warm smile. "Sorry to frighten you." "Who are you?" Raph demanded as he pointed his sai. However, Leo lowered Raph's arm. "Easy, Raph, don't make a scene. You don't need to worry, I mean you no harm. My name is Hama." The group appeared to ease up a bit. "You all shouldn't be out in the forest by yourselves at night. I have an inn nearby, why don't you come back there for some nice tea and warm beds?" "Yes please." Sokka accepted. Hama turned around and began to lead the group, while the turtles hung back and quietly talked amongst them. "She snuck up on us." "No one sneaks up on us," Raph whispered. "I know, creepy right?" Mikey replied. "Can we really afford to stay like this?" Dawn asked Leo. "We are a bit slightly ahead of schedule, it won't harm us if we stay for maybe 2 or 3 days. Come on." Hama had led the 8 of them to her inn. Katara, Sokka, Mikey, Aang, and Dawn all sat at the table while Leo and Raph leaned on the walls. The turtles had their hoods on for obvious reasons. Hama was pouring the group some warm tea. "Thanks for letting us stay here tonight, you have a lovely inn." Katara thanked. "Aren't you sweet?" Hama replied. "I just hope it's not too much trouble, we wouldn't want to impose." Dawn said. "Oh, it's no trouble at all," Hama assured as she sat down. "You know you should be careful. People have been disappearing in those woods you were camping in." "What do you mean by disappearing?" Leo asked. "When the moon turns full, people walk in and they don't come out." She oddly had a smile on her face right after saying that. "Who wants more tea?" Hama looked to see the kids with concerned looks on their faces and the hooded individuals paying close attention. "Don't worry, you'll all be completely safe here. Why don't I show you to your rooms and you can get a good night's rest?" Hama offered. Each of them had been shown to a room, 2 people were in one room. Leo bunked with Aang, Mikey with Raph, Toph with Katara, and Dawn with Sokka and Momo. Each room had 2 beds. Dawn was sound asleep on his bed, but Sokka had trouble sleeping. He tossed a bit in his bed. Soon a creaking sound was heard. Sokka was quickly startled as he shot up with his space sword at the ready, even Momo was startled awake. "Sokka, come on, get some sleep," Dawn told him with a yawn. "Hey, it's not my fault this place is creepy," Sokka defended, though sounded quite scared. Why'd you have to tell that story about the demon alien thing? You asked for a scary story, we told you one. Don reminded. Sokka hung a blanket over his face. Next thing you know, you're gonna tell me Shredder's been grabbing people in the middle of the night and turning them into monsters. Don thought for a moment. You know, that actually did happen. Up. Sokka quickly interrupted. I don't wanna hear it. I might never fall asleep again. Well, maybe you could. Don tried, but no sooner than 2 seconds later, Sokka was out cold. He snored up a storm as he already began drooling. Don rolled his eyes before he got back to sleep as well. The next morning, Don was already awake as he put on his hooded robe, though Sokka was still asleep and somehow ended up on the floor. Don was about to open the door, but found it already open with Hama and Katara at the door. Good morning, young man. Yeah, good morning. Don was slightly surprised at how quick she beaten him to the door, and he didn't even hear her coming. She walked close to the still sleeping Sokka. Wakey, time to go shopping. 10 minutes later, the turtles had their hooded robes on, and Team Avatar had their Fire Nation clothes on as well as they were in the town's local market. The hooded turtles and most of Team Avatar hung in the back while Katara was up ahead with Hama. The latter had just finished making a purchase from an elderly man who waved at her. That Mr. Yao seems to have a thing for you. Katara observed. Maybe we should go back and see if he'll give us some free Komodo sausages. You would have me use my feminine charm to take advantage of that poor man? Hama questioned before a playful smile formed on her face. I think you and I are going to get along swimmingly. As the group continued walking, the turtles and the rest of Team Avatar happened to hear a conversation going on near a stand. You won't have any ash bananas till next week. A customer questioned the merchant. Well, I'd have to send the boy to Hingwan Island to get them and it's a 2-day trip. Oh, right. Tomorrow's the full moon. Exactly, I can't lose another delivery boy in the woods. The group of young heroes heard all this. Well gang, we got a mystery on our hands. Mikey told the group. People disappearing in the woods, weird stuff during full moons, this just reeks of spirit world shenanigans. Sokka said. What? An evil spirit decided to make this town his own personal playground. Raph questioned. No Raph, that's not how it works. Aang began to explain. The spirits in the spirit world are connected to the natural environment in our world. If someone defiles it, they spirits will cross over into our world. And let me guess, they end up blaming the people responsible and want to get some payback, correct? Don assumed. Not quite how I would put it, but yeah. Aang replied. Well, is it a spirit, Aang? Leo asked. Aang shrugged. I don't know. Seriously? Mikey questioned. Aren't you supposed to be the bridge between the two worlds? Don't you have some kind of avatar spirit sense or something? Well, not really. Aang answered. But if we look around town, we'll find out what these people did to the environment to make the spirits mad. And once we do find it, we'll beat the living shell out of them. Raph said with a grin as he and Toph high-fived. Is it always a fight with you, Raph? Aang asked. Hey, it works. Raph replied. As they talked, Leo was looking towards Hama with Katara. He couldn't quite shake this odd feeling he had of her, call it ninja's intuition or a gut feeling, but something didn't feel quite right about her. Hama turned around to face the group with Katara. Why don't you all take those things back to the inn? I just have to run a few more errands, I'll be back in a little while. Leo walked up close towards Hama. This is a rather strange town, don't you think? Hama maintained her smile, which had a creepy vibe to it. A strange town, for strange children. Hama walked away while Leo and oddly Sokka both looked somewhat suspicious. Back at the inn, the group had set down all the groceries in the kitchen area. That Hama seems a little strange. Like she knows something, or she's hiding something. That's ridiculous. Katara protested. She's a nice woman who took us in and gave us a place to stay. She kind of reminds me of Gran. I hate to say it, but Sokka may have a point. Leo added, earning surprised looks from most of the group. Yeah, I never thought I'd hear myself say that either. Hey, Sokka protested. What are you talking about, Leo? Aang asked. I can't explain it, but there's this dark sensation I'm getting from her. Leo began. She's giving off a similar vibe to that of Vopalheart. You mean that really old guy who was being mind-controlled by that monster from your story? Toph recalled. The very same, Leo answered. But, didn't you say you killed that thing? Aang questioned. Yeah, well I can safely assume that monster isn't behind this, but there's something about Hama I don't trust. Leo told the group. Not you to Leo, Katara said. What about her made you not trust her? Call it a gut feeling. Yeah, I agree with Leo. Mikey added, surprising Katara. What? You to Mikey. Rule number 27 of horror movies, the bad guy is always the one you least suspect. Always. Mikey exclaimed, only to get smacked upside the head by Raph. This ain't a scary story Mikey. Raph said. She's old. How bad can old people get? Isn't your rat master old? Toph reminded. Guys, this is getting crazy. Hama is a nice person. I can vouch for her. Katara stated. You don't even know her. Leo replied. We only just met her last night. Although, that short amount of time doesn't quite give us any evidence to be suspicious of her. Dawn said. Yes, thank you Dawn. Katara added. But what did she mean about that comment, strange children? Sokka questioned. Gee, I don't know. Katara began with a sarcastic tone of voice. Maybe because she found 8 strange people camping in the woods at night. And half of the group has to cover their faces all the time. Isn't that a little mysterious? She has a point there. Dawn agreed with Katara. Yeah, I gotta go with Katara on this one. Raph added as well. Leo began to think more for a bit as he still couldn't shake his feeling. Sokka wasn't too convinced by this either. I'm gonna take a look around. Sokka began to walk out of the room and up a set of stairs. Leo and Mikey both followed him with the rest of the group close behind. Sokka, Leo, Mikey. Katara protested as the group followed them. You guys can't just go snooping around someone's house. It'll be fine, Sokka said as he looked around a hallway. He looked in one room and found nothing. Besides, these guys break into places all the time. Sokka pointed to the 2 turtles near him. Well he's not wrong about that. Mikey said. But we only do it for the bad guys. Dawn stated. And it's usually at night, and we're a lot more quiet than this. She's not home, Leo said as he looked in one room. Look, we'll make this quick, but I can't shake this feeling. Raph and Toph both grinned a bit. Ooh, goody two shoes Leo is turning bad. The red-clad turtle smirked. And you complained about me doing scams. Toph teased, but Leo chose to ignore that as he looked in a closet. But she could be home any minute. Aang said, not liking the idea of invading people's privacy. Hey, she's old right? Mikey asked. Old people always move slowly. Master Splinter isn't slow. Dawn reminded. But she's not Master Splinter, is she? Sokka questioned as he continued to look. Guys, you are going to get us all in trouble, and this is just plain rude. Katara protested. We're not finished yet, Sokka insisted as he tried to open a cabinet that seemed almost locked. But with a heave it came open as multiple puppets popped out. Most of the group screamed as even Raph and Leo were slightly startled. Dawn pulled Sokka out of the way before he pulled out his sword. Okay, that's pretty creepy, Aang admitted. The puppets, Mikey dreaded. Just like in that one movie. The one where the doll comes to life cause he's got the soul of a serial killer inside him. You need to tone down on the horror movies Mikey. Dawn told him as Raph face palmed. Katara, who was also slightly creeped out, put the puppets back and closed the door. So she's got a hobby, there's nothing wrong about that. It could be worse, Raph said. She could have had actual dead bodies stuffed in there. Katara looked to Raph with a somewhat disgusted look on her face. There's something seriously wrong with you. She looked to see Leo with Mikey and Sokka. Guys, you've looked enough. Hama will be back soon. The 3 of them walked up another set of stairs into the building's attic. Sokka walked towards a door and tried to open it, only to find it locked. Just an ordinary puppet-loving innkeeper, huh? Sokka questioned. Then why does she have a locked door up here? Maybe to keep smart asses like you out. Raph told him. I'm not a smart ass. Sokka protested. Yes you are. Toph, Dawn, Mikey, and even Katara all said at the same time, resulting in Sokka pouting. Mikey looked through the keyhole and into the room. I don't see anything except, he spotted a black box. A little chest. Toph gave an excited gasp. Maybe it's treasure. Sokka and Mikey both beamed while the rest of the group just looked deadpanned. Mikey took Soka's sword and began to try and pick the lock. Mikey, you're breaking into a private room. Katara protested. I wanna see what's in that chest. Mikey said. It could be some kind of evil amulet, or a necklace with people's fingers. Aang and Sokka looked somewhat frightened, while Katara just looked disgusted. Ew. That's gross. Why would you even suggest that? And please don't say horror movies. Mikey was unable to pick the lock, until Leo got down onto the lock and reached into his pocket to pull out a pick and was able to pick the lock in less than a second, opening the door. We shouldn't be doing this. Aang said. And yet, we're doing it. Don said. Leo picked up the box. He shook it a bit and listened into it. There's only one thing in there. Mikey was about to say something as he raised a finger, and it's not body parts. Leo told Mikey, who just lowered his finger. Well, don't leave us hanging. Open it already. Sokka exclaimed. I'm working on it, Leo said as he took out his lockpick again and began to pick in it, but it was a bit more effort this time. Come on, Mikey and Sokka insisted at the same time. It's not easy to work with you guys breathing down my neck. Leo replied as Katara looked nervously down from the blue-clad turtle's shoulder. Aang was also a bit nervous. Guys, I don't know about this. Hey, we already made it this far, Raph said, deciding to go along with it. Even I'm getting curious at this point. Don agreed. Katara wasn't in agreement, however. This is crazy. I'm leaving. Suit yourself, do it, Leo. Sokka told him as Katara began to leave. Leo was able to unlock it. Got it. The whole group hovered over Leo, much to his annoyance, as he was about to open it. I'll tell you what's in the box. The entire group was greatly startled as they turned around to find Hama in the doorway. Toph, why didn't you say anything? Mikey questioned. Hey, it's a wooden floor, she harshly replied as she punched his arm. Ow. Mikey rubbed his arm. That's twice she snuck up on us. Raph thought to himself. Maybe Leo and the others are onto something about her. Hama walked into the room as Leo handed her the box. She opened it, and the group watched, almost dramatically, as she revealed the box's contents, a small blue comb. An old comb. Sokka, Mikey, and Raph questioned at the same time. Well, wasn't that anticlimactic? Don stated sarcastically. It's my greatest treasure, Hama revealed. It's the last thing I owned growing up in the Southern Water Tribe. That revelation caught the entire group by complete surprise. Even the turtles didn't see this coming, evident by their wide eyes. But none were more surprised than Katara and Sokka. You're from the Southern Water Tribe? Katara questioned in surprise. Just like you, Hama replied with a smile. How did you know? Katara asked once more. I heard you talking around your campfire. Hama answered. You and your big turtle friends. If the turtles weren't surprised before, they were now. They all lowered their hoods to reveal their green faces with their ninja masks. You knew, Leo stuttered. Yes, I heard your stories around your campfire, Hama said. I'm sorry for eavesdropping, and do not worry, I won't say a word. Who would believe me anyway? Don smiled. Thanks, we appreciate that. But why didn't you tell us you were from the Southern Water Tribe? Sokka questioned. I wanted to surprise you, Hama answered. I bought all this food so I can fix you all up a big Water Tribe dinner. Of course I can't get all the ingredients I need here, but ocean kumquats are a lot like sea prunes if you stew them long enough. Aang looked slightly grossed out. Great, he muttered sarcastically. I knew I felt a bond with you right away, Katara said with a smile. And I knew you were keeping a secret, so I guess we're both right, Sokka added with a smart aleck smile, only to get punched by both Katara and Raph. Don't be a smart-ass, Sokka, Raph said. Leo walked up. Hama, we're sorry for sneaking around. Yeah, with us being, giant turtles and all, we need to be extra careful, Mikey added. Apology accepted, Hama said with a smile. And as I said before, I won't say a word about any of you. Now let's get cooking. Later that evening, after Aang had given Appa some food, he returned to the dining room where everyone was sitting down as Hama was laying out the food for everyone to eat. I'd stay clear of the sea prunes, Aang whispered to Raph. I thought they were ocean kumquats, Raph whispered back. Close enough. Who wants 5-flavor soup? Hama offered. Oh, I do. Mikey raised his hand excitedly. Have you even had it before? Toph questioned. No, but I had pizza with 5 different toppings on it. How different could it be? Mikey replied. What Hama did next, no one was expecting. She raised her hand, and the soup began to lift out of the large bowl in front of her. She flexed her hand and the soup split into 8 small streams and went into everyone's bowls. Every human and turtle looked surprised at this, while Katara had a look of excitement. No way. Don gasped in surprise. You're a waterbender. Katara elatedly exclaimed. I've never met another waterbender from our tribe. Hama looked down in sorrow. That's because the Fire Nation whipped them all out. I was the last one. If you're from the South Pole, how did you end up all the way out here? Leo asked. I was stolen from my home. Flashback. A much younger Hama with long brown hair had a happy smile as she stood in her Blue Water Tribe clothes in a Southern Water Tribe village. It was over 60 years ago when the raid started. The young Hama walked towards another woman, who was in fact Katara and Sokka's future grandmother Kana, and Hama's apparent best friend as the two smiled and shared a laugh. But all joy vanished when they saw black snow beginning to fall from the sky. It was soot. Hama could only look in horror. She and Kana both ran up to the top of the wall that surrounded their village. They both looked towards the sea where they saw several Fire Nation ships entering their territory. Fireballs immediately fell on the city as Fire Nation soldiers all began to march onto the land and begin attacking. Firebenders were on the attack, but the tribe's waterbenders came to their home's defense and were able to put up a good fight. However, their efforts were in vain as every waterbender spotted were entangled in nets and dragged off. Hama tried to fight as well and was able to slice through any net that came at her. They came again and again, each time rounding up more and more of our waterbenders and taking them captive. Hama watched as the captured waterbenders were dragged off in their nets by their firebending captors. Hama and all the remaining waterbenders continued to fight, and even managed to take down a Fire Nation ship, trapping it in the ice. We did our best to hold them off, but our numbers dwindled as the raids continued. More and more waterbenders continued to vanish. Hama would continue to fight, until she found herself surrounded by at least 100 firebenders. She couldn't hope to win, so she surrendered. Finally, Ida was captured. I was led away in chains. The last waterbender of the Southern Water Tribe. Hama's hands were chained as Fire Nation soldiers forced her onto their ship. She looked to the teary-eyed Kana, her best friend, one last time. Hama's eyes filled with tears as the door closed and she lost all hope. End flashback. Most of the group looked to Hama in sympathy at the end of her tale. Even Raph's face softened, though he had a great deal of anger towards the Fire Nation as he clenched his fists. Katara walked towards Hama and put her hands on Hama's shoulders in comfort. They put us in terrible prisons here in the Fire Nation. I was the only one who managed to escape. How did you get away? Sokka asked. And why stay here in the Fire Nation? Why not just go back home? Don asked as well. I'm sorry, it's too painful to talk about anymore. Hama didn't answer, something Leo noticed. We completely understand, Katara told her, referring to herself and her brother. We lost our mother in a raid. Oh, you poor things. Hama patted Katara's hand in comfort. It was once again silent. Aang, Sokka, Mikey, Don, even Toph, all looked down in sympathy. Raph was clearly angry still with the Fire Nation, but chose not to say anything. Leo couldn't help but notice something in the tone of Hama's voice as she told her story. Something just seemed rather off about her, especially when she didn't reveal why she chose to stay in the Fire Nation. Katara had a humble smile on her face. I can't tell what it means to meet you, it's an honor. You're a hero. Hama smiled as well. I never thought I'd meet another Southern waterbender. I'd like to teach you what I know so that you could carry on the Southern tradition when I'm gone. Katara had an elated smile on her face. Yes, of course. To learn about my heritage, it would mean everything to me. She made a respectful bow, while Hama smiled. But Leo noticed a little spark in Hama's eye. It wasn't an optimistic spark or anything like that, it was something else. The next day, Hama was leading Katara through the outskirts of the small town onto a small rocky landscape as she began to teach her newly appointed pupil what she knew. Growing up in the South Pole, waterbenders are totally at home surrounded by ice, and snow, and seas. But as you noticed on your travels, that isn't the case wherever you go. I know. When we were stranded in the desert, I felt like there was almost nothing I could do. Katara admitted as they walked into a forested area. That's why you have to learn to control water wherever it exists. Hama said. I even used my own sweat for waterbending. Katara recalled. The turtles are even teaching me some hand-to-hand combat, just in case I can't use any water. That's very resourceful, Katara, Hama told her. And learning other ways of combat and self-defense can also be very helpful. But did you know you could even pull water out of thin air? Katara was a bit surprised as Hama began to motion with her hands, drawing upon the oxygen and hydrogen molecules in the air, creating water, which she bent around her fingers. You've got to keep an open mind, Katara, Hama said as the water around her fingers began to freeze. There's water in places you never think about. She threw the ice blades from her fingers to a tree and they impacted from the sharp ends. Katara couldn't help but look excited. What Katara and Hama didn't appear to notice was from a far tree, Leo and Mikey both hung in the branches in the shadows watching the whole thing. She's very talented, Leo observed. Her method, however, seems creepy. Mikey finished for Leo. I get she's from the same place as Katara, but there's still something about Hama that creeps me out, even more than Azula. And that's saying something. Yeah, I can't shake the same feeling myself. Leo agreed. Something's off with Hama, though I'm a bit surprised that you decided to watch her with me. Dude, Leo, Katara's like my sister. I know she can take care of herself, but I just don't trust Hama around her, that's all. Mikey explained. I agree, she's like a sister to me too. Leo replied. And while her heart is in the right place, she can be a little naive sometimes and let her emotions cloud her judgment, both positive and negative alike. That's why we're here, Mikey said. If something goes wrong, we'll be here to back her up. Got that right. While Leo and Mikey were both keeping a very close eye on Katara and Hama, there was a third party watching over the whole scene, the very same individuals who had been watching the entire group during their travels in the Fire Nation. 2-foot ninja were watching the whole scene from at least 3 kilometers away with a pair of advanced binoculars on top a rocky cliff. They appeared to be making great time. 1-foot ninja spoke. The day of the invasion is nearing and they are almost at their destination. Indeed, the second ninja agreed. Yet, we may have stumbled onto something quite interesting. The old waterbender. Yes, the turtles appear to notice something about her as well. If they're suspicious, it must be for a reason. Then let us continue to observe, and perhaps this Hama could be of use to the master. Elsewhere, Raph and Don, both wearing their hooded robes, choose to help Aang, Toph, and Sokka try to find the reason behind people's disappearances. They were going along with Aang's spirit theory and decided to take a look at the natural environment around the town. At the moment, they were looking over a lush forested landscape. Don rubbed his chin as he looked around. We've looked all over. There's no factories, no military bases, no pollution, not like any of the last places we've been to. You're right, Aang agreed. This has got to be the nicest natural setting in the Fire Nation. I don't see anything that would make a spirit mad around here. Maybe the moon spirit just decided to go psycho crazy on us. Raph suggested. Sokka, who had been sniffing the flowers, didn't like that comment. The moon spirit is a gentle, loving lady. She rules the sky with compassion and lunar goodness. The group just looked at Sokka with odd expressions. Maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Don mused. What are you talking about, D? Toph asked. If spirits in this world are connected to the environment like Aang says, and given how there isn't any sign of pollution or anything like we've seen in that fishing village, then maybe the spirits aren't the ones responsible for this. Don guessed. What do you mean? Sokka asked. I'm just thinking that maybe there are others responsible for this. Certain people who can blend in at night and stick to the shadows. Don hinted. You think the Foot are behind this? Raph questioned. Well, I wouldn't put it past them. Don replied. They have abducted people before. But why would the Foot just snatch random people? Aang asked. I mean, it's like you said, there's no military bases here or anything. I don't think anyone important lives here, and I thought the Foot were helping the Fire Nation. Shredder is only interested in helping himself. Raph replied. And the Foot don't really need a reason to do any of the crap they do. This one time, They grabbed a bunch of random guys off the streets back in New York and mutated them into monsters so they can dig underground and try to find the Utroms. That caught Aang, Toph, and Sokka by surprise. Wait, are you guys serious? Sokka questioned. The foot can turn people into monsters. Mutants, yes. Don confirmed. We've met those mutants almost a year ago, but that's a long story. I can see why you guys would think the foot are behind this, but why did it only during the full moon? Aang asked. If they're as good as you say, wouldn't they just grab the people they need anytime they want? Yeah, you're right. Don realized. Raph turned and noticed a man walking by. He walked up towards him. Hey buddy. Raph called out. You know anything about people vanishing at night during the full moon? The man began to think. Only one man was ever able to escape being taken. And that's Old Man Ding. Where does Old Man Ding live? Toph asked as she pulled down on his sleeve. Leo and Mikey hung back in the trees at the forest where they were able to silently watch Katara and Hama as the two waterbenders entered a field of red flowers. Wow, these flowers are beautiful. Katara awed at them. They're called fire lilies. Hama said. They only bloom a few weeks a year, but they're one of my favorite things about living here. And like all plants, and all living things, they're filled with water. I met a waterbender who lived in a swamp and could control the vines by bending the water inside. Katara remembered. You can take it even further. Hama revealed. She waved her arms in a circle, and as she waved she bent the water out of the red flowers around them, something Leo and Mikey noticed in surprise. The flowers died once all the water was removed. Hama then created a series of water blades that sliced through a thick pillar of stone. Mikey grimaced at the sliced stone while Leo took notice of the hostility that was shown there. Katara seemed much more excited however. That was incredible. She looked down at the flowers and her smile faded. It's a shame about the lilies though. They're just flowers. Hama dismissed. When you're a waterbender in a strange land, you do what you must to survive. Hama placed a hand on Katara's shoulder and brought her close. Tonight, I'll teach you the ultimate technique of waterbending. It can only be done during the full moon, when your bending is at its peak. Katara seemed a bit nervous. But isn't that dangerous? I thought people around here have been disappearing during the full moon. Hama didn't seem nervous at all. Oh Katara, two master waterbenders beneath a full moon. I don't think we have anything to worry about. Hama continued to lead Katara away, while Leo and Mikey looked towards each other from the spot they were at, having heard it all. Okay, yes something's definitely off. Mikey said. People disappear during a full moon, which coincidentally is also when a waterbender is at their strongest. Leo said. Why do I get the feeling Hama hasn't told us the full story of why she hasn't left here? Later that night, Raph, Aang, Don, Toph, and Sokka were walking through the village as night had fallen. They came up to the house of a certain old man. Said old man was trying to nail boards to his window. He was about to hammer one nail in when suddenly. Yo, Old Man Ding, Raph called. Huh, Old Man Ding accidentally bashed his fingers with his hammer. Dang nammit. What? He questioned to the group of young heroes in front of him. Can't you see I'm busy? Got a full moon rising. And why does everyone call me that? I'm not that old. Old Man Ding tried to lift up his fallen board, but it wasn't budging. Well, I'm young at heart. Sure you are. Raph muttered as Toph snickered. Don and Aang both helped Old Man Ding get the board up and nailed it to the window. Not ready to get snapped up by some moon monster yet at least. Old Man Ding stated. We wanted to ask you about that. Sokka said. Did you get a good look at the spirit that took you? Aang asked. Or if it were someone else. Like maybe some people dressed in black perhaps. Don asked as well. Didn't see no spirit or men in black. Old Man Ding replied. Just felt something come over me, like I was possessed. What do you mean by, possessed? Raph asked. Something forced me to walking toward the mountain. Old Man Ding continued as he pointed to the large mountain outside the village with the group listening to him closely. I tried to fight it, Old Man Ding waved his fists for emphasis. But I couldn't control my own limbs. It just about had me into a cave up there. And I looked up at the moon, for what I thought would be my last glimpse of light. As Aang, Don, Raph, and Toph continued to pay close attention, Sokka was getting nervous as his knees began to shake. But then, the sun started to rise, and I got control of myself again. Old Man Ding continued. I just hightailed it away from that mountain as quick as I could. Why would spirits drag people to a mountain? Raph wondered until it hit him. Wait a minute, Toph. You're right. Toph agreed with Raph, getting the group's attention. I did hear people screaming under the mountain. The missing villagers must still be there. They all looked towards the mountain and knew exactly what to do next. Toph led the group through the forest with Aang, Sokka, Dawn, and Raph close behind her. Toph was using her seismic sense to guide them. Which way, kid? Raph asked as Toph stopped to feel the ground. I can hear them, they're this way. Toph continued to lead them closer and closer to the mountain. Leo and Mikey both hung close from the branches in the treetops. Even though they were concealed in the shadows, they could see the eerie white glow of the full moon, something that creeped Mikey out, even more so when they both looked down to where Hama and Katara were. Can you feel the power the full moon brings? Hama asked Katara behind her. Hama stood in its light and felt the power surge in her. She inhaled and was even able to stand upright. For generations it has blessed waterbenders with its glow. As she talked, Katara and even the concealed turtles noticed the veins in her arms bulge, allowing us to do incredible things. I've never felt more alive. Base of the mountain. Toph had led Raph, Sokka, Dawn, and Aang to a cave at the very base of the mountain, and it was pitch black. You sure this is it, Toph? Dawn asked. 100% positive. Toph confirmed. I can't see anything down there. Sokka looked down into the darkness. Dawn and I are ninjas, remember? Raph reminded. We're used to the shadows. Plus you guys got me. Toph said as she took both Sokka and Aang's hands, jumping down into the cave while the two ninja turtles followed them in. The group came to a metal door with two lit torches on the sides. Raph and Dawn immediately pulled out their respective weapons. Okay, we don't know what we're dealing with here. Prepare yourselves for the worst. Dawn said as he readied his staff. Oh, I'm ready. Raph declared as he twirled the say. Toph, why don't you knock? Toph nodded as she readied her metal bending. She felt along the door with two punches before punching it clean off the hinges. Aang and Sokka grabbed the torches from the side and walked into the dark room. The group looked in surprise at what they saw with the lit torches. What the shell? Raph breathed. At least 24 people were all in chains, chained to the walls of the cavern room and the pillars. Men and women, old and young alike. Some look like they've been in this place for days, maybe even weeks. We're saved, a man exclaimed. Toph took off her meteor bracelet and metal bent it into a pick to pick the locks while Raph got to work to cut the chains with his say. I didn't know spirits made prisons like this. Aang said. Who brought you all here? It was no spirit, a woman stated as Raph cut the chains that held her in place. It was a witch, a man added. This caught the group's attention. What do you mean by witch? Dawn asked. She seems like a normal old woman. The woman before began. But she controls people like some dark puppet master. That's when it hit them. Hama. Raph and Sokka exclaimed at the same time. Yes, the innkeeper. Another prisoner confirmed. Leo was right about her. Dawn exclaimed. I was right too. Sokka added. We have to stop Hama. Aang exclaimed. No duh, kid. Raph added. I'll get these people out of here. You guys all go ahead. Toph told her friends as Raph, Sokka, Aang, and Dawn all ran out of the cave. As they ran through the cave, Dawn thought of something. Guys, hold on. Hold on, Sokka questioned. Dawn, we got a psycho old hag on the loose. What would we be holding on for? Raph questioned as well. Have you guys ever wondered how she was able to do all this? Dawn told them. How could she have kidnapped all these people? I don't know. Aang replied. No, remember what old man Ding told us? Dawn recalled. He felt something possess him. And that one prisoner says Hama controls people. Maybe some kind of hypnosis. Raph wondered. No, old man Ding wasn't hypnotized, he knew what was going on around him. Dawn continued to think. Hama's a waterbender, right? And the people all vanished during the full moon. Sokka, didn't you say waterbenders are at their strongest during the full moon? Yeah, that's what Katara told me. Sokka confirmed. Dawn began to think until his eyes widened. That's it. That's how she's done it. What? Aang asked. When Hama's waterbending is at its peak during the full moon, she is able to bend the water inside a human being. Dawn stated. Raph, Aang, and Sokka were caught by complete surprise at this. What? They all yelled at the same time. How is that possible? Aang questioned. The human body is 70% water. Dawn began. She can bend the water inside a human's body and literally make them her puppets. They'll do anything she wants them to do. That is messed up on so many levels. Raph said. And I thought firebenders were crazy. But we still have to stop Hama. Aang insisted. Yeah, but we can't rush into this. Dawn told him. If we just run up to her, she'll bend the water inside us and make us her puppets. Then how do we stop her? Sokka questioned. Dawn looked at them with a serious look. By not fighting like benders, but by fighting like ninjas. From the shadows. Leo and Mikey continued to listen from their hiding spot, along with Katara, as Hama began to speak and reveal more of her story. What I'm about to show you, I discovered in that wretched Fire Nation prison. Flashback. A younger Hama was seen in a suspended cell wearing ragged clothes with a face that was completely void of hope. The guards were always careful to keep any water away from us. They piped in dry air and had us suspended away from the ground. Hama's hands and feet were chained and restrained as a guard extended via stick a small bowl of water into her cage, which she was forced to lap like an animal. Before giving us any water, they would bind our hands and feet so we couldn't bend. Any sign of retribution was met with cruel retribution. Young Hama looked to a small skylight in the prison towards the full moon. And yet each month, I could feel the full moon enriching me with its energy. There had to be something I could do to escape. That's when I realized that wherever there is life, there is water. A couple of rats ran all along the chains of the cage that kept it suspended in the air and into Hama's cell. The rats that scurried across the floor of my cage were nothing more than skins filled with liquid. A rat came up close towards Hama. She thrusted her palm forward and began to bend the water inside the rat and even made it stand up on its hind legs. And I passed years developing the skill that would lead to my escape. Reality. Bloodbending. Leo looked in surprise at this. Mikey had an expression to show just how freaked out he was. Katara's expression was one of almost horror as her pupils shrunk. Controlling the water in another body, enforcing your own will over theirs. Resume flashback. Hama had managed to successfully bloodbend all the rats in her cage into being her puppets. Once I had mastered the rats, I was ready for the men. A Fire Nation guard was walking down the walkway of the prison as Hama performed her bloodbending on him. He was unable to move as he stiffened up. His arm was forced to his side where the keys were attached to his belt. Hama dragged his entire body to her cell where she had him insert the key to her cell and unlock it. The guard was then forced to the ground with the cell door open. And during the next full moon, I walked free for the first time in decades. Hama walked out. When the guard tried to get up, she used bloodbending to force his head onto the ground before walking away. My cell unlocked by the same guards assigned to keep me in. Reality. Hama had finished telling her story. Once you perfect this technique, you can control anything. Or anyone. Mikey could only shudder. Dude Leo, that is all kinds of messed up. Mikey, for once I completely agree with you. Katara also had similar feelings as well. But to reach inside somebody and control them. I don't know if I want that kind of power. The choice is not yours. Hama began, causing both Leo and Mikey to glare from their hiding spots. The power exists. And it's your duty to use the gifts you've been given to win this war. Just who the shell does she think she is? Mikey gritted his teeth in contempt while Leo glared. Katara, they tried to wipe us out. Our entire culture. Your mother. Hama insisted. The mention of Katara's mother really struck a nerve in the turtles. I know. Katara replied. Then you should understand what I'm talking about. Hama stated. We're the last waterbenders of the southern tribe. We have to fight these people however we can, wherever they are, by whatever means necessary. Realization hit Leo and Mikey instantly, and the same for Katara as well. It's you. You're the one who's making people disappear during the full moons. They threw me in prison to rot. Hama stated in contempt and hatred. Along with my brothers and sisters. They deserve the same. Her face turned into a twisted and maniacal grin. You must carry on my work. This hag is more crazy than Azula. Mikey whispered to Leo. You know, it's not polite to call your elders insane. Hama called out, earning a surprised look from the turtles as well as Katara. Why don't you two come out of the shadows and step into the light? What? Katara breathed. Hama threw her hands outward to the right, causing Leo and Mikey's bodies to both stiffen as she used bloodbending to throw them down from the branches hard onto the ground. Guys! Katara exclaimed as she tried to run towards them, but Hama already had Mikey up on his feet and motioned for her grab Katara in the form of a tight bear hug. How did you? Leo struggled as Hama forced him onto his feet. Being a bloodbender does more than just let me bend the water in a person's body. Hama explained with a twisted grin. I can sense the blood in any living creature around me during the full moon. I felt your presence the moment the moon's power began to course through my veins. Leo struggled as he attempted to move. Don't bother struggling, Hama told him as she held him tight. It's impossible for you to fight your way out of my grip. I control every muscle, every vein in your body. She motioned for Leo's body to twist, causing some pain as he grunted. Leo! Katara exclaimed with worry as Hama controlled Leo with one hand, and maintained Mikey's stance with her other, forcing him to maintain his grip on Katara. Let him go, you freak! Mikey angrily exclaimed. Respect your elders, turtle! Hama scowled as she continued to twist Leo. Hama laughed as she continued to twist him. Leo then went for a different tactic. He closed his eyes and instead of struggling, he allowed himself to relax as he focused. He remembered what Master Splinter had taught him. Leo focused his kai and was able to break free of Hama's grip. Evident as he drew one of his katanas and threw it at Hama, who was able to duck but couldn't believe what she saw. Not only was Leo free, but also the distraction was enough for Mikey to break free and let go of Katara. How did you break free? It's impossible, Hama exclaimed as Leo drew his other sword. Years of training, Leo replied. Your reign of terror in this village ends now. Leo ran toward Hama, with his sword at the ready. But before he could strike, Hama quickly used bloodbending to pull Katara in front of her. Leo's eyes widened as he stopped dead in his tracks, his sword almost an inch from Katara's face. Hama's twisted smile formed as she used bloodbending on Mikey behind Leo. Leo, look out! Mikey warned as he was forced to run towards Leo, but he was able to jump high and do a backflip over Mikey. Hama controlled Mikey with one hand as he made him run towards his brother and motioned for several punches and kicks, which Leo was able to avoid. You really should have learned the technique, Katara, Hama told her captive, but instead, you'll be the instrument in your friend's death. Hama forced her onto the ground, close to the sword that Leo attempted to throw at Hama and forced her to grab it in her hand. Hama then thrusted her hand forward, sending Katara screaming and flying towards Leo, pointing the sword at him with the intent on stabbing him. Leo however was quickly able to block it with his remaining sword, but this gave Hama an opening to force Mikey to kick Leo in the abs. Sorry bro. Leo was sent to a tree and Katara forced in front of him. Leo, I can't stop. Tears welled up in her eyes as Hama laughed. She forced Katara to raise the hand with Leo's katana in it with the intention of cutting him down. You're a waterbender to Katara. Leo told her. You're strong. Use your own will. Fight back. As Katara heard this, she remembered some of the lessons Leo and the other turtles taught her in Aang a few weeks ago. Patient, persistent, water finds a way around. Eventually wearing down any obstacle in its path. Go with the flow. Let the other dude waste his energy. Katara's desperate look faded into one of determination. Okay guys, I hear you loud and clear. She allowed the full moon's power to flow into her body. With that, she lowered her stance and dropped Leo's sword. She turned to Hama with a glare who could only look in surprise, so much so she even lost her grip around Mikey. You're not the only one who draws power from the moon, Hama. Katara stated as she bent the water out of the grass and trees around her and sent a powerful stream towards Hama, who while still able to block it allowed the freed Leo and Mikey to jump through a splash of water and land a couple of hard kicks on Hama, sending her rolling across the ground. Leo picked up his swords as Mikey drew his nunchucks and they stood by Katara's side. A river faces many obstacles. Katara told Hama as she got back up and took a waterbending stance. But patient persistent water always finds a way around, eventually wearing down any obstacle in its path. She bent a ring of water around her and sent it towards Hama, who was able to catch it and throw it back at Katara, but this allowed Mikey to come in close from the right and smack his left nunchuck across her face, sending her stumbling back towards Leo, who went on the offensive with many katana slashes. Hama was able to block it, however, with an ice shield she quickly created from the water in the grass below her. While Leo distracted her, Katara used her water to slam a bullet into Hama, sending her sliding back. Must be hard to bloodbend with a split focus, huh? Leo said as he attempted to slice at Hama, but she created a water whip, which she flung at Leo, but he was able to slice through it. Mikey tried to come at her from behind, but she created a large water ring around her to block the nunchuck strikes. This let Katara bend the ring around Hama, which she pulled away from her and sent it hard at Hama. Hama blocked it with a palm thrust, but Leo landed a kick from behind and Mikey struck her with an X strike from his weapons right at her face, knocking her down. Leo looked behind him when he heard footsteps and saw Raph, Aang, Sokka, and Don coming onto the scene. He was about to warn them, but Don gave a look that said he knew what to do. Aang, create a smokescreen. Don told the young monk. Got it. Aang thrusted his hands to the ground and used earthbending to create a mild tremor to pick up a large cloud of dust around Hama as she stood up. The dust blinded her temporarily and entered her mouth, forcing her to cough. As the dust enveloped her, Leo pulled Katara into the trees surrounding the area as Mikey hopped into the woods with them. Don, Raph, Sokka, and Aang all scattered into the forest as well. Hama can't use her technique if she's distracted. Leo called out to his friends. Hit and run attacks. Don't let her catch you. Hama had enough and was able to bend more water out of the grass below her to clear away the dust cloud surrounding her. When it cleared, she couldn't see anyone. She scowled. You think the shadows can hide you? She called out, positive that they could all hear her. I may not be able to see you, but I can still sense your blood. Can you even hear yourself? Don's voice called out as he quickly ran to her from behind, smacked her with his staff to send her to the ground as he ran back into the forest. You sound like some kind of vampire. Raph's voice called out to Hama, who struggled to get up. As she tried to get up, her line of vision caught Raph running right at her. She couldn't react in time as he delivered a knee to her jaw to send her into the air as he vanished. Hama's face scowled even further. You call yourselves heroes, she called out. How can you defend the Fire Nation? We're protecting innocent people. Aang's voice called out as he used airbending to accelerate his speed that even Hama couldn't anticipate. He was almost a blur as he ran past and clipped Hama, causing her to fall once again. Innocent. Hama shrieked in disbelief and anger. You call the same monsters that tried to destroy us all innocent. Don't act like you're the victim here, lady. Raph's voice called out again. He and Mikey both ran out of the forest from opposite points and nailed Hama in a cross attack as they both vanished again. You may have been through a lot, but it's no excuse for what you've done. Sokka's voice called out. She looked in one direction as she saw an object coming towards her. It was Sokka's boomerang. It hit her across the face as it curved and disappeared back in the forest as Sokka caught it. They are responsible for the deaths of millions and 100 years of pain and torment. Hama retorted, getting back up again. They deserve no less than a painful and agonizing death. Then how are you different from them? Mikey called out. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Hama shrieked insanely as she bent all the water she could from the plants around her and sent a massive storm of razor-sharp ice into the forest around her. This attack forced most of the group to scatter to avoid being hit, but she failed to notice Leo leaping high above her. A shadow loomed over as she looked up with wide eyes to see Leo coming down at her. With a slash from his swords, she fell to the ground. Hama struggled to get up when she noticed a pair of feet in front of her. She looked up to a glaring Katara. Bloodbend this. Katara pulled back a fist and punched her across the face, knocking Hama out. Nice finishing move, quip. Mikey congratulated as everyone else walked out of the forest. A few moments later, Toph had led all the missing villagers to the area where the battle had taken place. The turtles had their hoods up once again as they and Team Avatar watched as Hama was being placed in chains. There's a storm coming, Hama warned, looking back at the young group of heroes. It's time to choose a side. You've already made your choice, Hama. Leo warned her. And now you'll live with the consequences. Hama glared before she turned to Katara. You'll be seeing me again, Katara, I promise. The people then began to lead Hama away, leaving the group alone for the moment. Meanwhile, on top of a small cliff, roughly 3 kilometers away from the area where the fight took place, The 2-foot ninja had been watching and listening to the whole fight since Hama told her story, and they were both quite impressed. Bloodbending, interesting. Very interesting. One ninja mused. Her waterbending alone is nothing to scoff at. She was able to go on par with the younger waterbender and 2 of the turtles. They were all forced to resort to stealth tactics just to have the advantage. She has a very unique talent. The second ninja observed as well. In addition, her hatred for the Fire Nation is also quite interesting. Perhaps she may be of use to us. The next day, Team Avatar and the Ninja Turtles flew up on Appa in the sky, with Aang providing cloud cover for the Sky Bison and his passengers, just now leaving the village. Leo, Katara, and Mikey had finished telling the rest of the group about Hama's story and her technique. Bloodbending. That is all kinds of messed up. Toph stated. Yeah, the old hag wasn't exactly perfectly sane either. Raph added. Hey guys, maybe we should lighten up a little bit, for a certain person riding with us. Mikey advised as they group looked to see Katara looking off the side of the saddle. She may not have seen anything through the cloud cover, but she was deep in thought. Katara, are you okay? Aang asked. I was so stupid. Katara began. How can I not have seen this sooner? You guys were right. It's not your fault, Katara, she fooled all of us. Don said. Not me. Sokka pointed out. I knew something was off about her. Raph punched his arm. Ow. Not helping. Don't be so hard on yourself, Katara. Leo told her. There are a lot of people out there who'll try to take advantage of a person's trust. Shredder even at one point tried to trick me into joining him one time. So I can understand. Katara looked towards the group. But, she was a waterbender, from my home. I just thought, she was someone like me. Hama is a self-righteous psychopath. Mikey told her. You're a good person, you stood your ground against her, a waterbender from your tribe, to protect a Fire Nation village. She is nothing like you. Katara gave an honest smile to the group. Thanks guys. Small prison. Hama sat in a dark cell of metal prison, being guarded by 2 Fire Nation guards. She sat there, her face evident with anger and hatred. For the first time, she was defeated, and what's worse, a waterbender from her own nation stood against her, and didn't even learn bloodbending. Was this it? Was she just meant to rot for the rest of her life without passing this skill on to anyone? Her thoughts were interrupted with a slight commotion outside. She looked to see the 2 Fire Nation guards fall over, kunai in each of their necks as they now lay dead on the floor. She looked outside her cell to see 2-foot ninja, the same who had been watching the Avatar, turtles, and their friends, come face to face with the bloodbender. You are Hama, the bloodbender of the Southern Water Tribe, correct? One ninja asked. Hama scowled slightly. What of it? The second ninja took out his katana and sliced the lock before opening the door, much to Hama's surprise. The foot has a proposition for you.